Chapter 748. Jing Yunjiao was shocked. Her eyes widened, and she pointed at the little guy, speechless. It can talk. Jing Yunjiao's face was a little red after holding back for a while. Its voice was not as sharp as a parrot's. On the contrary, it was more like the sound of a person coughing, so it did not sound noisy. Instead, it gave her a feeling of shock. After all, the little guy in front of her looked very young, and Li Xiaoyun could teach it to imitate human language so early. You have to reward it with something to eat. Li Xiaoyun's mouth curved, and the smile in his eyes could not be restrained. But I don't. Jing Yunjiao's voice was a little excited, but she immediately reacted. She coughed twice and looked at Li Xiaoyun with some embarrassment. Thank you, I like it very much. But Li Xiaoyun, what does it eat? Will it be noisy? Because I live in the dormitory, after all, I'm not the only one. It is an omnivore. It eats meat, fruits, and insects. And you can rest assured that it will not be noisy. If it is really noisy, it will generally beg you to feed it. At present, it can only say the two words are jiao. You can teach it other words. I guarantee that it will be very obedient. Li Xiaoyun's face showed some pride. Jing Yunjiao's attention was almost completely attracted by the little guy, and it looked completely adorable. Although this little fellow was pitch black and not as adorable as kittens and puppies, it was different from the rest. Its sparkling eyes were actually aqua blue. Especially when it stared at her, it completely treated her as if she was family. She couldn't even feel the slightest bit of disgust. Ah Jiao. En. Jing Yunjiao smiled, and her expression became a lot warmer. She did not even raise her head. What does it like? Is it a female bird or a male bird? Li Xiaoyun's temple twitched. It is a male bird, and it likes shiny things. In addition, it has a high IQ, and sometimes it is a little childish. It looks like it's very smart. Should I use a name? As Jing Yunjiao spoke, she was already hugging the box a little tighter. Looking at this action, Li Xiaoyun only felt that his heart had suffered a blow. He had only contributed a pet, and his value had dropped. Had he been beaten by his own hatchlings? He had guessed that Jing Yunjiao would be interested in this smart-looking little guy, but he didn't expect her reaction to be bigger than he had imagined. I don't have a name. You pick one. Li Xiaoyun suddenly felt a little hot. He took off his jacket and held it in his hands. Jing Yunjiao was stunned for a moment. He immediately lowered his head and looked at Raven in the paper box. Black Emperor. He was dressed in black, but the purplish-blue flowing light around him gave him a handsome look. She was quite satisfied with this name. Li Xiaoyun rubbed his brows. Black Emperor, forget it, he was not going to argue with a bird. Are you satisfied with this gift? Li Xiaoyun changed the topic and asked. Jing Yunjiao immediately regained his serious look and nodded. Thank you, young Master Li. Are you my subordinate? Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. What? Jing Yunjiao was stunned. You've accepted my gift, and we've known each other for 2.5 years. Why are you calling me young Master Li? Only people who are not familiar with me call me that. Li Xiaoyun paused, bent his waist slightly, and reached out to her ear. Actually, I like to hear mushy words. For example, Brother Li, Xiaoyun. Brother Li. Jing Yunjiao's mind suddenly went blank. Her face turned cold, and goosebumps appeared on her body. Xiaoyun was fine, but he actually called her brother. Chapter 749. Jing Yunjiao's body was as straight as a pencil as she hurriedly took a big step back. That, Xiaoyun. Curfew is coming soon. I'll go back to the dormitory first. Drive carefully. After saying that, she turned around and left nervously. She didn't dare to stay any longer because she felt her heart beating faster. This was a sign that she was going to get sick. If she stayed for too long, she would panic, be short of breath, feel thirsty, feel weak all over, and blush. It shouldn't be like this. Maybe it was because she hadn't seen Li Xiaoyun for a long time, or maybe it was because she was used to being called sister-in-law by Qi Zhong recently, or maybe it was because Li Xiaoyun's sudden gift made her a little uneasy. Because no one had ever treated her like this. When she was in trouble, no matter what her attitude or tone was, he helped without hesitation. When she was at her most ordinary and simple time, he abandoned the bustling capital city and found all kinds of excuses to accompany her. Habit was the most addictive thing in the world. As the cool breeze blew, Jing Yunjiao, who was at a loss, calmed down a little. However, at this moment, her phone rang again. She took it out and saw that it was another message from Li Xiaoyun. "I'm satisfied with the way you call me. If you don't want me to suddenly become a teacher of a university, remember to report Black King's situation every night. After all, that's the bird I hatched." Jing Yunjiao was speechless. Why did she feel that Li Xiaoyun was very proud of the fact that she hatched a bird? "Okay," Jing Yunjiao replied. At this moment, Li Xiaoyun, who was still standing at the school gate, heard his phone ring. He took it out and saw a simple word that made his expression soften. Raising that bird was indeed useful. He smiled and opened the car door. However, there was a slender finger that blocked his strength. "Handsome, want to go for a ride?" In front of him, there was a flirtatious woman. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and glanced at her. He saw that this woman seemed to have a problem with her body. Her butt was shaking non-stop and her body was leaning forward, as if she wanted to stick those two disgusting things to him. His eyes turned cold. "Okay." Li Xiaoyun's voice was cold. When the woman heard that, she jumped for joy and hurriedly walked to the front passenger seat. However, she heard Li Xiaoyun say, "Sit in the back." The woman was stunned. But on second thought, this man looked like a serious person. He must be afraid of others gossiping. It would be different when there was no one around. She sat behind him happily. Li Xiaoyun sneered. After a while, the car sped away at an astonishing speed. Drive slowly." The woman broke out in a cold sweat. However, no one responded. After more than 2 hours, the car finally stopped. The car was already in the suburbs. There was no one around. There was a highway in the distance, but there were very few cars. The woman heaved a sigh of relief and quickly got out of the car to calm herself down. However, as soon as the woman got out of the car, Li Xiaoyun started the car again without saying a word. Sigh. I haven't gotten in the car yet. And my bag. The woman shouted from behind, but the luxurious car soon disappeared into the night, leaving no trace behind. The woman was stunned. She looked around and saw that it was pitch black. The cold wind made her body feel cold. She was only wearing a bra and shivered in the cold. Not only that, there was a rustling sound around her. She felt like there was something unclean around her. "Old 7, I'll go to your place later and remove all my seats and replace them." At this moment, Li Xiaoyun's cold voice came from the car. Chapter 750. Jing Yunjiao naturally didn't know that in the middle of the night, Li Xiaoyun had thrown a beautiful woman into the wilderness without leaving a single scent behind. When she returned to the dormitory, she was already under the scorching gazes of the 3 people, her face full of uneasiness. "Does a crow look like this? The glow of its feathers is so cool, it's purplish blue." "Ignorant, this is a raven, okay? This thing often appears in movies, and it's usually accompanied by corpses. It's not a good luck charm," Hu Tianxian said deliberately. Regardless of whether it was a raven or a jackdaw, this kind of bird was considered inauspicious to many people. However, Hu Tianxian also knew that crows were the most intelligent birds in the family of birds. Moreover, most birds would only have one partner in their lifetime, and were extremely loyal. Ah Jiao. Hey Di wasn't afraid of people at all. At this moment, it was pacing around Jing Yunjiao's desk, calling out as it walked. This call made everyone turn to stone instantly. Even Hu Tianxian, who had been disdainful a second ago, widened her eyes. "It can talk. Look at its eyes, it's still a young bird." Young ravens' eyes were aqua blue, and when they reached adulthood, they would slowly turn dark brown. However, generally speaking, even if it was a hand-raised bird, teaching it to talk was not something that could be done overnight. Jing Yunjiao's gaze softened. He hurriedly used his bag to cover it, and took out a small bag of fruits and grains from his space. He picked a few varieties and placed them in front of Hey Di to see if there was anything that it liked. However, Jing Yunjiao obviously overlooked this little fellow's intelligence. He watched as Hey Di swallowed a few pomegranates, then used its wings to sweep everything behind itself. After that, it obediently looked at Jing Yunjiao and the others. Ah Jiao, ah Jiao. It called out again. Hua Tianxian swallowed her saliva. Didn't they say that animals are not allowed to become spirits after the founding of the country? What a monster, it called out your name to cheat you for food. Yarrow Baobao was also confused. So cute, Yunjiao, Hey Di is really amazing. Ren Xingyue's eyes lit up. Jing Yunjiao was also stunned for a moment. She stretched out a finger, originally wanting to pat Black Emperor's head, but who knew that Black Emperor would directly stand on her hand with an obedient look on his face. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and smiled. Di is very obedient, I'll be taking care of it for a while. If it's noisy, it's not noisy. It's not noisy at all. No problem at all. The three of them said. The corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. I'll try my best to teach him well, but Black Emperor also needs to rest at night, so he probably won't make a fuss. Plus, my friend said that he rarely opens his mouth to make noise. However, Hua Tianxian and the other two didn't mind at all and waved their hands. Hey Di is going to be the little emperor of our dorm in the future. Who would dislike such a smart fellow? But why didn't I think of raising this breed before? Not only does it look cool, but it's also so cute. Especially with its intelligence, it's much better than other puppies of the same age. Jing, can you let it stand on my hand and play with it for a while? I want to try. Yarrow Baobao said eagerly. She had never raised a pet, not even a cat or a dog. Ever since she was born, her parents had given away all the pets at home, saying that they had germs on them. They said that she was weak and it would be bad if she touched them. But in reality, she was very healthy. Every time she saw other people with pets, she felt very envious. Chapter 751. Although Li Xiaoyun was the one who gave Hey Di to her, Jing Yunjiao wasn't so stingy as to keep it to herself. She directly handed it over. Yarrow Baobao carefully stretched out her hand to catch it, but who knew that Hey Di would move his feet and crawl from Jing Yunjiao's hand to her arm, as if he didn't want to acknowledge her. Hua Tianxian didn't want to give up, so she quickly reached out to join in the fun. However, Hey Di's wings flapped, and it instantly flew up. 2 seconds later, it landed firmly on Jing Yunjiao's shoulder. Its whole body was pressed against her neck, and it looked like it wasn't willing to go anywhere. Are you sure this is your first time interacting with Hey Di? Hua Tianxian's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Yarrow Baobao was even more envious. She couldn't wait to become Jing Yunjiao and play with Hey Di for a while. Jing Yunjiao was also a little surprised. Although Hey Di was very intimate with her at the beginning, it wasn't to this extent. Could it be because she gave Hey Di something to eat just now? Take the things on the table and feed it to it. Jing Yunjiao said uncertainly. Hua Tianxian and the other two nodded. They were about to pick up the pomegranates, but just as their fingers touched them, Hey Di rushed over and pecked Hua Tianxian's finger lightly without hesitation, as if it was protecting its food. It can't be. Just you wait. Hua Tianxian was speechless. She quickly went to her seat and took the fruits she usually ate, placing them in her hands to tempt Hey Di. Unfortunately, Hey Di didn't even look at them. Hey Di has really become a spirit. Hua Tianxian shook her head in confusion. It looks like we'll have to watch Jing and Hey Di show off their love in the future. There was clearly a magical and cute species in front of her, but she couldn't even get close to it. This feeling was too hurtful for a young girl. Jing Yunjiao thought for a moment, then took out the same fruit as Hua Tianxian from his pocket and handed it to her. Try this. Aren't they all the same? Could it be that your fruits are better than mine? Before he could finish his sentence, Hey Di suddenly jumped into Hua Tianxian's hand, grabbed the item, turned around, and flew back. Although it was only for a short moment, it was much stronger than the indifference just now. Jing Yunjiao heaved a sigh of relief, revealing an expression of as expected. The reason for Hey Di's behavior seemed to be related to the location where the fruits were produced. The fruits and grains in the space were all irrigated by the blue spring. Not only were they fresh, but they also tasted exceptionally sweet. They were also good for the body, which was completely different from the ones outside. He Di might have noticed the difference in the food she gave him, which was why he suddenly became so abnormal. However, Hu Tianxian and the other two did not know the reason behind this. Seeing this scene, their faces turned bitter. They had never seen such a picky bird before. Could it be that the food that Jing Yunjiao touched tasted better? Jing Yunjiao also felt a little embarrassed. She took a big travel bag from the bed and took out a lot of fresh fruits. These grains and fruits were all planted by my master. They're a little special and taste better than the ones outside. I think it's because of this Black Emperor that he's picky with his food. You guys can try some too. Is that so? Hu Tianxian was a little doubtful, but she was already holding an apple in her hand. With a catcher sound, she took a bite and immediately gave a thumbs up. It's so sweet, and it's not greasy. No wonder. They had been in the military training base all this time, so these fruits could not be taken out to enjoy. Hearing Hu Tianxian's words, the other two did not hold back. However, after tasting a mouthful, they all showed a somewhat shocked expression. One after another, they ate 2 or 3 more until their stomachs were full. Only then did they restrain their appetite. Chapter 752. The fruits produced in Jing Yunjiao's space were highly sought after by the outside world. Currently, they were all sold at Yu Tianxian. Because the fruits weren't taken out, many people specially went to Yu Tianxian just to have a taste, causing the restaurant to become more and more popular. During the previous holidays, Du Lin had already contracted a lot of land in the name of the two of them. Some vegetables that didn't grow for long were already edible, so she didn't have to go through the trouble of transporting them. As for the quality of the vegetables, all the seeds were soaked in the space's blue spring. Although they weren't as good as those that grew in the space, they were 10,000 times better than those outside. And Du Lin wasn't a boss who only stuck to a small county. In her previous life, his achievements weren't low. Now, he was preparing to open a large branch in the capital. However, it would take time to choose a location and open it. And for the new restaurant, she and Li Xiaoyun would both hold shares in it. But thinking of this, Jing Yunjiao's face revealed a trace of a smile. After her rebirth, she had changed too many things. Even the industries related to her were increasing. She had companies and real estate, but she still lacked a house. Anyway, she was alone, so she wasn't in a hurry to buy one. The few people in the dormitory didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to have such a good thing in her hands. One by one, they hurriedly inquired about her mysterious master's plantation. Jing Yunjiao found a lot of excuses to evade them. She promised that if there were fresh fruits in the future, they wouldn't be left out. He Di was indeed an extremely quiet little fella. Other than occasionally opening his mouth to call out a jiao, he was basically very well behaved. That night, he even slept at Jing Yunjiao's bedside. His sleeping posture was also a little different from normal birds. He sprawled out on his back next to her pillow, just like a puppy that could fly. Jing Yunjiao became more and more curious about how Li Xiaoyun educated this little fellow. The next morning, the few of them went to the classroom together. He Di naturally couldn't follow. If it was placed in the space, when they returned to the dormitory, the others would be worried if they couldn't see it. Therefore, they could only let it stay in the dormitory alone. Before leaving, the few of them were reluctant to part, afraid that He Di would be lonely. However, it was clear that he had underestimated the Black Emperor. The little guy was playing on the mini swing made by Jing Yunjiao. It was having a great time. The table was full of shiny little things given by Hu Tianxian and the others. Obviously, it was in a good mood. This was only the first semester of university. Studies were not that important, but there were more common classes. University A was a school that nurtured the aura of nobility. Other than some necessary courses, there would be etiquette lessons from the start. Jing Yunjiao majored in business, so he would also need to learn business etiquette. Other than that, there would also be some other activities, such as various exhibitions, cocktail parties, and etiquette. Basically, it was to nurture students into high-end talents. The few of them arrived at the classroom on time before class started. Because the students in the class had all met during the military training, they all got along very well. When they saw Jing Yunjiao, they all looked over at the same time. Just now, the head teacher came over and asked us to discuss the candidate for the class monitor. Jing Yunjiao, you did well during the military training. We want you to continue to be. As soon as they entered the classroom, someone stepped forward and said. Most of the people here were a group of rich young ladies and young masters. They weren't interested in the class monitor position at all. To them, being the class monitor was just asking for trouble. Of course, Jing Yunjiao knew that although these rich young ladies and young masters didn't want to be the class monitor, the other ordinary students might not. After all, being the class monitor would leave a deeper impression on the teachers. There were still benefits. Chapter 753. Jing Yunjiao had never liked trouble. Although she wasn't the class monitor in high school, she had been enslaved by Old Man Qi for 2 years. Now that she had finally gotten rid of the old man, she wouldn't be so stupid as to offer herself up again. I'm afraid I can't because I don't have much time, Jing Yunjiao said politely. Sure enough, Jing Yunjiao could hear a sigh of relief coming from quite a number of students. But other than you, I can't think of anyone more suitable. Hu Tianxian said. Just let me go. I'm planning to work and earn some money when I'm free. Being the class monitor is very busy, especially being the class monitor of a university. It's better to leave this kind of thing to someone else. Jing Yunjiao waved her hand and found a seat. Work? Are you short of money? Hu Tianxian was stunned. Didn't Jing Yunjiao just invest 10 million yuan? Once the beauty salon was reorganized, there would be a lot of money coming in every year. Why would she need to work? This word was too foreign to her. Jing Yunjiao wasn't lying about working. The pharmaceutical factory would be built soon, and she would be very busy. Besides, she couldn't delay her medical skills. She was also planning to find a clinic to practice her skills. The class monitor of a university had always been busier than the homeroom teacher. She didn't have the energy to take on this responsibility. Is there anyone who isn't short of money? Jing Yunjiao smiled and said. Hu Tianxian choked. Her question was a little too stupid. Nowadays, people rarely thought of money. Even the richest man in the world would think that he didn't have enough money. Everyone knew that Jing Yunjiao came from an ordinary family. Since she had rejected so clearly, they didn't want to force her. In the end, after another round of discussion, the class monitor was chosen by a man who looked like a teacher. He wore a pair of glasses and looked very gentle. His name was Han Nan. Jing Yunjiao had never talked to him before, so she didn't know much about him. But looking at him, although he looked gentle, he was polite and generous. He wasn't shy at all. He was indeed a good choice. As for the homeroom teacher, he was a meticulous middle-aged man. There was nothing special about him. After deciding on a series of chores, it was time for class to officially begin. However, almost all classes began with the drowsy expressions of the students. However, the students couldn't be blamed for this. The freshmen were still enthusiastic, but it was a pity that most of the things that the lecturers were talking about were just getting started. It was a bit boring, especially those about ideology and morality, which made the atmosphere in the room even more boring. Students, you are all freshmen. Today is the first day of my class, so I will introduce myself to you in Mandarin. However, in order to improve everyone's ability in the future, we will talk in a foreign language from the official class. Is that okay with you? In one class, a middle-aged lecturer on the stage said. Everyone sighed. Although they had been learning American language since a long time ago, it was still a little troublesome to learn some complicated words. This lecturer is a professor, but he's only an assistant professor. He's one level lower than an associate professor, but I heard that he doesn't like people calling him assistant professor the most. Students usually call him Professor Du. It's very useful, a girl behind Jing Yunjiao whispered. Jing Yunjiao looked up and glanced at Professor Du. She didn't have a good impression of him. She always felt that this person's kind appearance didn't match his appearance. The big black mole on his chin almost destroyed the balance of his whole face. He seemed a little unjust and sinister. Your grades in high school were not bad. I heard that there was a student who was only 1 point away from getting full marks in the college entrance examination. Is that right? Then I would like to ask this student to record what I said in class every time after class so that students who don't understand this can review it. Is that okay? Du Rongyang said again. Chapter 754. Everyone was stunned by Du Rongyang's words. In less than 2 seconds, there was a commotion. A student who's 1 mark away from full marks. That can't be, right? Is there such a perverted person? Hu Tianxian scoffed and said, if he's not cheating, then he's a monster, right? Moreover, if such a student is admitted, how can the school leaders not publicize it? I'm afraid there will be banners at the school gate to welcome him, right? Everyone was whispering. Students asking about the college entrance exam results could be heard everywhere. Du Rongyang's gaze swept across everyone and finally landed on Jing Yunjiao. He said amiably, I've seen the photo. It should be this female student, right? Everyone followed his gaze and finally landed on Jing Yunjiao and Hu Tianxian. Hu Tianxian was stunned. She turned and stared at Jing Yunjiao. You're that monster. Do I have to record everything? Jing Yunjiao asked. That's right. It's also to train your dictation skills. You got full marks in English. You should be able to do this, right? Du Rongyang said again. Jing Yunjiao glanced at Du Rongyang. She felt that there was something against her in his plain eyes. It made her feel like she was being targeted by a prey. She was a martial artist and had sharp senses. She couldn't be wrong. Okay. Jing Yunjiao's eyes darkened as she replied simply. Du Rongyang smiled with satisfaction. Then, he said, university is a place for you to start anew. Therefore, I hope that all of you can learn modestly. Your past results don't mean anything. After entering University A, everyone is the same, he continued his long speech. The more he said, the stranger Jing Yunjiao felt. It was as if he was deliberately saying this for her to hear. A second ago, he was still talking about her results. The next second, he said that everyone was the same. If he really thought that everyone was the same, he wouldn't have asked her to be the recorder, right? However, it was obvious that apart from Jing Yunjiao, no one else cared about this problem. Many people were still in a daze from the thunderous roar. Hu Tianxian stared at Jing Yunjiao as if she had just seen a ghost. She couldn't accept it. I thought you were just a little stronger in terms of physical strength. He was 1 point away from full marks, so he should be the top scorer, right? This was the first time she had seen such a low-key top scorer. She always felt that Jing Yunjiao was like an all-rounder. Nothing could stump her. Even her pet was different from other people's. This made her even more curious about her mysterious lover. To be able to match up to this Evildor and give her such a pet, the structure of his brain should be different from a normal person's, right? Did you find a way to find out the content of the exam? Hu Tianxian asked with a strange look on her face. Jing Yunjiao glanced at her. Miss Hu, if you couldn't find a way, how could I? That's true. I found a lot of teachers who had set the questions before to guess the questions. I guessed a lot of questions correctly. You can't have guessed more questions than me. Hu Tianxian sighed. Why don't you just tell me? What else do we not know? We'll have a chance to find out what we don't know in the future, Jing Yunjiao said simply with a smile. Hu Tianxian was a loudspeaker. If people found out about the company she was running, it wouldn't take long for everyone to find out. When that time came, she would be in a lot of trouble. However, she didn't plan to keep it a secret forever. The market for Yuling wines had already been established. Everything was getting more and more stable. It wasn't a listed company, so it could withstand changes in the management. Once the development in Jing City stabilized, she would tell Haiqing and the others. Chapter 755. Jing Yunjiao had been mysterious for more than a day. Hu Tianxian did not intend to get to the bottom of it, but she did feel a little hurt. After all, her arrogance was pale and powerless in front of Jing Yunjiao. None of her previous friends were like Jing Yunjiao, who had endless mysteries that she could not dig out. Now, after Du Rongyang finished speaking, the class officially began. However, although it was a foreign language class, Du Rongyang's words were still considered simple. She tried to use common vocabulary to express herself. After all, if the students could not understand at the beginning, it would be a big problem in the future. Jing Yunjiao's results in this subject were not bad. She was not only good at writing, but also had no problem communicating at a normal speed. Moreover, she had a good memory, so she did not find it difficult to record. Hua Tianxian did not believe it at first, but when she saw her rapidly writing down sentences, she was shocked speechless. Normal people would not even be able to keep up when recording Mandarin, let alone a foreign language. However, Jing Yunjiao was good. Not only did she not miss a word, but the foreign language symbols she wrote were as beautiful as printing. They looked very neat and beautiful, much more beautiful than Teacher Du's handwriting. Because Jing Yunjiao had to record the class, Hua Tianxian did not dare to chat with her. When the bell rang, she said, "I don't think I have seen your handwriting before, right? Write a few Mandarin words for me to see." Jing Yunjiao did not understand what she meant. She picked up the pen and drew on the paper. Hua Tianxian was shocked. Jing Yunjiao's handwriting was handsome and beautiful. She felt that it was better than the handwriting of the Chinese calligraphy masters she knew. "Have you specially practiced before? Jing Yunjiao, you are too abnormal. I think the heavens are fair, but aren't they a little too biased towards you?" Hua Tianxian was surprised. At this time, before Du Rongyang left the classroom, she took a deep look at Jing Yunjiao. She didn't say much and only reminded the students that Jing Yunjiao would record the contents of his class. At this time, there were already people coming forward to check what she had written. It wasn't that they were interested in what the teacher was talking about, but that the teacher was praising Jing Yunjiao to be amazing. As a result, everyone wanted to know if this top student who was 1 point away from a Grand Slam was the real deal. Jing Yunjiao suddenly understood what Du Rongyang was trying to say. If she wrote the wrong words, she was afraid that her classmates would doubt her ability or even the authenticity of her results. Jing Yunjiao chuckled as he looked at Du Rongyang's back. He turned to Hua Tianxian and said, "I didn't expect you to think that God is fair." Hua Tianxian was stunned for a moment before she smiled and said, "That's true. I was just saying it casually. However, I'm definitely biased towards you." She was good-looking, had good grades, and had good stamina. How could he not be biased? "You can say that," Jing Yunjiao said ambiguously. In her previous life, she felt that God was too cruel to her. She had been deceived for more than 20 years and became the Qiao family's lucky star. She had suffered since she was young. Until her death, she had died an unjust death. Unfortunately, she was reborn and everything was different. However, rather than being biased, it was more like she had seized the opportunity to start a new life. Whether it was her studies or her stamina, she had worked hard to learn them. She had never dared to slack off. Even her calligraphy was the same. After she had dropped out of school in her previous life, the only thing she could do was to practice her calligraphy. After her rebirth, it had become a habit and she liked to write and draw. Therefore, she did not regress. "Jing that teacher Du just now, was there something strange about him?" Hua Tianxian saw so many students coming over to check what Jing Yunjiao had written. She suddenly felt that something was wrong and asked. Chapter 756. Hua Tianxian wasn't an ordinary student. She had seen all kinds of conspiracy theories since she was young. She didn't think there was anything wrong with it at first, but that didn't mean she always thought that Professor Du was a good person. Hua Tianxian also felt that something was wrong with what Jing Yunjiao had discovered. Professor Du Rongyang seemed to think highly of Jing Yunjiao, but he was actually targeting him. However, Du Rongyang and Jing Yunjiao hadn't met before, so Hua Tianxian wasn't sure. "It's weird," Jing Yunjiao nodded, "he probably doesn't like me, but he's not the first." "Did you know him in the past?" Hua Tianxian thought for a while and said, "Ordinary teachers don't ask students to be recorders. After all, we've just entered university, and we haven't even taken the foreign language certificate. No matter how good our grades were in the past, we don't have the ability to remember everything, right? If you can't remember it well, then it means that your ability is fake. It's reasonable that you did it well. This job is too unfair." Hua Tianxian suddenly understood. "You're right, But he's a teacher. What he wants me to do is for my own good, so I can't refuse. Jing Yunjiao leaned back and said softly. Du Rongyang had praised her for a long time, and her classmates probably thought that the teacher treated her very well. Under such circumstances, she couldn't express her dissatisfaction. But this is simple, Jing Yunjiao suddenly said coldly. What do you mean? Hu Tianxian raised her eyebrows and asked. He's not targeting you for no reason. Tianxian, your family is quite powerful in Beijing. If possible, can you help me investigate Du Rongyang's situation? Jing Yunjiao asked again. Hu Tianxian immediately said, that's easy. I'll call my mother later. But is that all? I thought you would find a way to repay me. Jing Yunjiao smiled. Of course, it couldn't be that simple. As a lecturer, Du Rongyang did have the upper hand. However, she was not an ordinary girl. If she wanted to teach him a lesson, she still had the ability. He just needed an opportunity. Jing Yunjiao's smile made Hu Tianxian feel that there was something fishy going on. A sense of anticipation rose in her heart. However, when this feeling surfaced in her heart, she couldn't help but feel a little baffled. Had she been poisoned by Jing Yunjiao? She always felt that she, a dignified young lady, had recently become a cuckold with Jing Yunjiao as the center of attention. Jing who do you think is prettier between you and me? Hu Tianxian's tone suddenly became a little strange. Her face was gentle. Even Jing had become Jing which sounded a little strange. Hu Tianxian had a perfect oval face. She was pretty and stylish. However, Jing Yunjiao was not one to flatter others. After taking a closer look at her, he said, it depends on how you compare. Oh. Hu Tianxian raised her eyebrows. In terms of attractiveness and beauty, I'm not as good as you. In terms of aura and temper, you're worse than me. Actually, you don't even need to compare yourself to me. I'm different from you. You're a princess who stays in a castle. I'm a general who fights on the battlefield all the time. The difference is huge. Jing Yunjiao spoke the truth. Phut. Hu Tianxian couldn't help but burst out laughing. This is the first time I've seen someone praise themselves like this. I used to think that I was pretty narcissistic. I didn't expect that you're not bad either. Why did I think that you were reserved? Chapter 757. Although Hu Tianxian said that, she felt much better. Jing Yunjiao was indeed different from her. Even their starting points were different. How could they be compared? Moreover, the two of them could be considered good friends. How could there be a difference between red flowers and green leaves? I guess I'm being petty. But you can't blame me. Who told you to have so many secrets? Hu Tianxian smiled magnanimously. In her heart, she admitted that the reason she wanted to be friends with Jing Yunjiao was because of her unique aura. The two of them whispered to each other for a while before the surrounding crowd finally dispersed. However, it had to be said that after seeing what Jing Yunjiao had memorized, everyone was in a state of shock. Ordinary people simply couldn't keep up with this kind of hearing, hand speed, and brain speed. The class monitor, Han Nan, looked at Jing Yunjiao a few more times. He couldn't help but be amazed. Then, he turned and teased the students next to him. The first day passed peacefully. In the afternoon, classes ended early. The sun hadn't even set yet. Jing Yunjiao's mind was filled with thoughts of Black Emperor. He hurriedly prepared to leave the class. Jing Yunjiao. Before they even left the classroom, a gentle voice came from in front of them. The voice was directed at Hu Tianxian and the rest. I want to have a few words with Jing Yunjiao. Can you guys wait outside for a while? Jing Yunjiao looked up. It was Han Nan. Han Nan was nearly 1.8 meters tall. He was handsome and had a good figure. He was different from the boys of his age who had just entered the school. He had the air of a senior and looked sunny and amiable. Hu Tianxian smiled knowingly. Without another word, she grabbed Ren Xingyue and Yaro Baobao and turned to leave. What's the matter? Jing Yunjiao took 2 steps back. He kept a safe distance. Sensing Jing Yunjiao's distance, Han Nan was stunned for a moment. But he quickly recovered and smiled. I just saw your notes. Your memory is really good. And your handwriting is very beautiful. So? Jing Yunjiao frowned and asked again. She had never liked to get too close to boys. This was a habit she had developed over the years. It was the same even when she was friends with Gan Jinchen and Tang Zihua in high school. If there was no special reason, she would not be alone with them. This was to prevent others from gossiping. Han Nan looked a bit embarrassed. Some people said that Jing Yunjiao was hard to get along with, and the boys said that Jing Yunjiao was a cold beauty. Sure enough, they were right. However, he liked this kind of girl even more. She wouldn't flirt with guys and looked very clean, don't misunderstand. Han Nan hurriedly explained, actually, my English isn't very good. I was thinking. Every time you memorize Mr. Du's lecture, can you lend it to me for a night? I want to copy it all down. Anne. When everyone wanted you to be the class monitor, you said you wanted to work. Then, can you help me with my English? Can I pay you by the hour? After Han Nan finished speaking, he looked at Jing Yunjiao expectantly. I can lend you my notebook, but I'll pass on the tutoring. Jing Yunjiao simply replied and handed over the notes she had just copied. She had listened to it and memorized it. In addition, she had written it down with a pen, so she had a deep impression of it. It wouldn't take long for her to rewrite it when she got back. It wasn't that she had to rewrite it. It was just that Mr. Du was hostile to her and had specifically issued this task. Just in case, she had to leave something behind. After all, the notes were for her classmates to see. If she lost them, she wouldn't be able to explain herself. Then, Mr. Du would have enough reason to mock her. Chapter 758. Jing Yunjiao's clear rejection caused Han Nan's face to be filled with disappointment. However, not long after, he revealed a slight smile. As he watched Jing Yunjiao leave the classroom, he lowered his head and flipped open the notebook. Reaching out his hand to touch the neat handwriting, a different feeling arose in his heart. Class monitor Han has taken a liking to you, right? Hu Tianxian asked on the way back. You're thinking too much. Jing Yunjiao simply replied, unwilling to talk about it. Hu Tianxian's lips curled up. She still had a good eye for people. Just now, Han Nan only had eyes for Jing Yunjiao. If he didn't like her, why would he act like that? However, it was a pity that Jing Yunjiao wasn't the type of girl who was suited to be lovey-dovey. Class monitor Han Nan was destined to be a goner. The group returned to the dormitory. Jing Yunjiao didn't stay for long. Taking advantage of the fact that it was still early, he tidied up his things and went out. He originally wanted to bring Black King with him, but after seeing the resentful looks of Yarrow Baobao and the others, he decided against it. She had a lot of land in her space, but not all kinds of plants. So, she wanted to go to the market. In addition, she also wanted to go to the flower and bird market to see if there was anything suitable for Black King. There were buses in front of a university that went to various places in the capital. Jing Yunjiao didn't find it troublesome and got on. There were quite a lot of students on the bus. After all, it was only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, many students chose to go out to work or go shopping at this time. However, there were a lot of people on the bus and there were no seats available. Following closely behind Jing Yunjiao was an old man who looked to be in his 60s or 70s. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but think of Old Man Shu. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The old man wore a light grey sportswear and looked very energetic. After getting on the bus, he didn't look around to find a seat. Instead, he stood next to Jing Yunjiao and happily looked at the scenery outside. Student, can you give this old man a seat? Thank you. Jing Yunjiao glanced at the old man and turned to the boy sitting next to him. No need, no need. We'll be there soon. The old man was startled and waved his hand. Your legs are a little swollen, and it's a little crowded here. It's better for you to sit down and rest, Jing Yunjiao said. When the old man heard this, he couldn't help but look at Jing Yunjiao a few more times. He couldn't help but ask, I'm wearing long pants. How can you tell? When you got into the car, your clothes were stretched, so your ankles were exposed. In addition, the way you walk is different from ordinary people. Also, there is the smell of medicinal herbs on you. I have a good sense of smell, so I can smell it, Jing Yunjiao explained. The old man was of medium build, neither fat nor thin. He looked very healthy and energetic, but there was something wrong with his expression when he walked. He seemed to be struggling a little. Because the old man got into the car right behind her, it was easy for her to notice his condition after she stood in position. Everyone had more or less some problems. She was good at observation, but most people only had some minor problems, such as a cold, cough, simple external injuries, or problems with the oil on the skin. However, they weren't serious, so she wouldn't say much. However, the old man's condition was more serious. His legs were swollen, and there were many reasons. The old man's face was a little gloomy, and there seemed to be a spider mole on his neck covered by his clothes. If she guessed right, the old man should have a liver disease. He got into the car from the gate of a university. He had a scholarly aura, and his voice was strong but a little hoarse. He was most likely a lecturer in this university. At this time, Jing Yunjiao said simply, so the boy couldn't refuse. He quickly got up and let the old man sit. Chapter 759. The old man no longer refused and sat down after thanking the boy. He looked up at Jing Yunjiao and asked, "Are you a student of a university? What are you studying?" They had only met for less than a minute, but he could tell that his legs were not well and he was so sensitive to herbs. It was a pity that such a talented person did not become a doctor or a police officer. "I'm studying management," Jing Yunjiao said politely. The old man was a little surprised and disappointed. Jing Yunjiao looked at him and thought for a moment before saying, "You should be a lecturer in Chinese studies, right? Or a professor. You know me." The old man was even more disappointed. He thought that he had met a little girl with good observation skills, but he did not expect that this girl had come prepared. "You got into the car at a university. Your voice was a little hoarse and you paid attention to your appearance. It is more likely that you are a teacher. When I said that I was studying management, you looked a little disappointed. Ordinary teachers would not be like this, but the teachers in Chinese studies are more arrogant. They are not interested in majors that are full of the smell of money. Some even look down on students who may become businessmen in the future. In addition, there are some calluses on your hands. It seems that you are a calligraphy master." Jing Yunjiao explained clearly. She did not intend to say too much to the old man. She just wanted to get close to him and talk about his illness. If she rashly advised him to go to the hospital for a checkup, it would be too abrupt. It might be better if they could talk more. The old man's eyes lit up. "Yes, I'm a professor in Chinese studies. I thought too much just now. I rarely come to the general hospital in the past 2 years. A young girl like you looks like a freshman at first glance. Naturally, you don't know me. I didn't judge you fairly just now. It is easy for people to make mistakes when they are old. As you said, it is not good to be arrogant. My words were not appropriate. I hope you don't mind," Jing Yunjiao said politely. "I'm not that narrow-minded." The old man smiled. "Little student, where are you going?" Screech, screech, just as the old man asked, there was a sudden screech of brakes. Jing Yunjiao's body swayed. He looked to the front and saw that the driver seemed to be in great pain. He was sweating profusely and frantically turning the steering wheel. The people in the car were so scared that they kept screaming. Jing Yunjiao also panicked. He steadied himself and rushed forward to help. He used a great deal of strength to restrain the driver and stop the car. Only then was it over. He checked his pulse and could clearly feel that the driver's heartbeat was extremely fast. He was panting heavily. It looked like he was having a relapse, but it was more like he had been injected with drugs. He hurriedly flipped through the driver's clothes and rolled up his sleeves. Sure enough, he found a green pinhole on the driver's arm. At this time, the car had just stopped, and everyone in the car ran out in a panic. In the panic, it was likely that the person who had just injected the drug could not be found. Although there was a camera in the car, the picture might not be clear. Moreover, the other party dared to inject something so boldly, they would definitely be on guard. But why would they target a driver? Jing Yunjiao always felt a little flustered. After all, this was too sudden and even a little too coincidental. Jing Yunjiao controlled his temper and dismissed those messy thoughts. He hurriedly took out some pills from the space and stuffed them into the driver's mouth. After a while, the driver's complexion had almost recovered. However, some of the people outside had been scared out of their wits. Even if the driver recovered, they might not dare to sit in the car. Chapter 760. Jing Yunjiao was confused at this time. She didn't know who the mastermind was targeting, but if he wanted to kill her, she didn't dare to believe it. After all, she had just arrived in the capital and didn't know many people. Although there were some people she didn't want to deal with, they were just little girls like Ju Maijun. Even if she had 10 times the courage, she wouldn't dare to joke around with the lives of a car full of people. If it was directed at someone else, then what was that ominous premonition that made her break out in a cold sweat? Jing Yunjiao put the driver down with a lot on her mind. She turned around and was about to get out of the car, but when she turned around, the old man was still there, which surprised her. "Little student, your reaction is really good. Being a police officer is more suitable than doing business," the old man suddenly said. Just now, the car was too chaotic, so he didn't dare to move. After all, he was an old man. The more panicked he was, the easier it was for him to cause problems. In addition, this little girl he met by chance was still in the car. He also wanted to see what she wanted to do, but he didn't expect her to be so strong. She clamped down on the man to prevent him from going crazy, and immediately stopped the car. Later, she seemed to take out something strange and stuffed it into the driver's mouth. After a while, the driver calmed down and fainted. The whole process was exciting. He had lived for so long, and it had been a long time since he had encountered such an exciting thing. "You really know how to joke." Jing Yunjiao laughed dryly and helped the old man get out of the car. After a while, the ambulance came and took the fainted driver away. The people in the car left their phone numbers with the police and left. Jing Yunjiao was clear that even though the driver was injected with drugs, there was an 80% to 90% chance that the case would be left unsolved. There were so many people on the bus just now, the good and the bad mixed together. A lot of people could have gotten close to the driver, so the possibility of finding out was very small. After thinking carefully, Jing Yunjiao understood a little. Just now, along the way, she was standing at the entrance of the car. There were more students who had just gotten on the car, and it wasn't very crowded. So if the culprit wanted to harm her, directly injecting her would definitely be discovered immediately, but it was different for the driver. Of course, she wasn't sure whether she was the target or not. She was just guessing. It was just a pity. If the other party injected her, she would definitely knock the person unconscious on the ground at the first moment, so this false alarm could be avoided. "Little classmate, where are you going? If it's on the way, why don't we take a taxi?" the old man asked. "I want to take a look at the flower and bird market." "We're on the same bus, so it must be on the way," Jing Yunjiao said. Sure enough, the old man chuckled and nodded. "My surname is Mo." After getting into the car, the old man introduced himself. "Professor Mo, my name is Jing Yunjiao. Men with lofty ideals are weeping for the sake of the emperor. Righteously, they hang Yunjiao in broad daylight." "Yunjiao, that's a good name." Professor Mo nodded and couldn't help but praise him. As expected of a professor of national studies, the first thing he opened his mouth was a poem. Jing Yunjiao had never even heard of it before. Her face was slightly embarrassed. After a while, she thought for a bit and still said, "Professor Mo, I just asked about the smell of medicinal herbs on your body. It should be just a plaster to reduce swelling, right?" "That's right. Maybe it's because I've been walking too much recently, so my ankle is a little swollen," Professor Mo replied. "Professor Mo, forgive me for being rude, but I'm afraid you'll need to see a proper doctor. I've learned some medical skills from my elders, so I can tell that you're probably suffering from liver depression. In other words, your liver's function is abnormal. At first, it was only edema in your ankle, but it's usually accompanied by spider mole, dull pain in the liver area, fatigue, loss of appetite, bloating after eating, nausea, vomiting, and other symptoms. If left untreated, the edema will spread from the bottom to the top, and eventually become stubborn ascites. If it's more serious, it can affect your life. Chapter 761. Jing Yunzhao's expression was very serious. She did not look like she was joking or fooling around. Professor Mo was shocked by her, but he was not angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "Did you want to find an opportunity to tell me this when we were chatting just now?" This little classmate had maintained a distant attitude towards others since she got on the bus. She didn't look like a talkative person, but she explained the results of her observations very carefully to him. From what she was saying now, it wasn't hard to guess that what she said before was to make her words sound more credible. It was all to pave the way for things to unfold. That's right. Jing Yunzhao nodded and admitted. She was also a little embarrassed. Then I'm curious. Since you learned medical skills from your elders, why didn't you apply for medicine? Look at you, you're more passionate than many doctors. Professor Mo said again. Jing Yunzhao could not directly say that the teachers in this school were not as good as her medical skills and could not teach her at all. She could only say, I've already finished my apprenticeship in Chinese medicine, so I want to learn other things to broaden my horizons. Finished your apprenticeship? Professor Mo was stunned. Jing Yunzhao nodded. You're so young, but you talk big. Why don't you take a look at me and give me a prescription? I'll go to the hospital and let the doctor take a look. If you're right, I'll let this matter go. If you're wrong, I'll ask the school to transfer you to the medical department. Professor Mo said. He quite liked this little girl. She was neither servile nor overbearing, and she was brave enough. There were not many little girls like her these days. However, she was too arrogant. Jing Yunzhao was a little surprised when she heard his words. Judging from his words, he probably had some status in the school. Jing Yunzhao was not afraid of him. She accepted the challenge calmly. Then, she immediately took his pulse to confirm his condition. She took out a pen and paper from her bag and wrote a Chinese medicine prescription. However, when the prescription was in her hands, Professor Mo's eyes became a little excited. Your handwriting. Writing depended on one's energy. Writing in a spurt of energy would be smooth and imposing. However, the physical fitness of the students nowadays was not good enough and they were not patient enough. Even if their handwriting looked majestic, in his eyes, it was just a bluff. Most of them were soft and fluffy. However, Jing Yunzhao's handwriting was different. The strength of his wrist was definitely trained. It was just that his handwriting was still a little immature. Otherwise, he would be able to become a master in the future. Did you learn this from your elders? Professor Mo asked immediately. Jing Yunzhao shook his head. I'm just practicing when I have nothing to do. That was all. Professor Mo shook his head. If he hadn't put in any effort, he wouldn't have been able to write so well. His impression of Jing Yunzhao instantly improved. This calligraphy is good. It's a style of its own. Indeed, he hasn't learned it professionally. Do you know how to paint? Jing Yunzhao shook his head. It's a pity that such good calligraphy complements a Chinese painting. Your handwriting is not weak. It proves that you have some skills. If you learn Chinese painting, you should have some talent. It would be a waste if you don't use your talent. As a person, you shouldn't only think about how to earn money in the future. You should learn more about the skills of your ancestors. Only then would it be meaningful, don't you think so? Old Mo said a bunch of things out of the blue. The old man was an elder. Jing Yunzhao listened obediently and nodded. All right then. In the future, you'll have one more class than the others. I'll teach you, Professor Mo said again. Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. Professor Mo, little student, it's not hard for you to be my student. Before Jing Yunzhao could say anything, Professor Mo said. Hearing this name, Jing Yunzhao felt a sense of familiarity. After thinking carefully, he seemed to have some recollection. Chapter 762. When she was still in Huaning County, she often discussed the medicinal properties of medicinal herbs with Old Man Shu. The old man had some understanding of her handwriting. When he first saw her handwriting, he seemed to have said that if she could learn from a famous teacher, her handwriting would definitely improve even more. She didn't take it seriously at that time. Later, Old Man Shu said that he knew a famous teacher named Mo Zhengyang. Old Man Shu's evaluation of Mo Zhengyang was very different. The old man was very arrogant, and there were very few people he liked. However, when he mentioned Mo Zhengyang, he said that he was a scholar who had been crazy for decades. He knew everything from astronomy to geography. If he was in ancient times, he could have been the imperial preceptor or the prime minister who assisted the country. Unfortunately, his talent was not fake, but it was also because of his talent that his life was lonely. He said that Mo Zhengyang was a little arrogant because of his talent and had always been a person with high standards. He even sighed and wondered if he was still like this now that he was old. Jing Yunjiao saw that it was not as exaggerated as the old man said. However, it made sense. After decades of exposure to wind and frost, his temper would definitely be much better. Thinking carefully, Jing Yunjiao still remembered that Old Man Shu had told her about Mo Zhengyan's private affairs. At that time, she was still a little emotional, so she could remember. The old man said that when Mo Zhengyang was young, he was an outstanding person in the capital. Unfortunately, his family was poor at that time and his level of learning was not too high. He was only a teacher in the school. However, he met a young lady of a family. Unfortunately, the young lady was the only daughter in the family and had to inherit the family business. If they wanted to be together, the man could only marry into the family. Even the child they gave birth to would be considered the woman's. Mo Zhengyang was stubborn and very traditional. Even when it came to the woman he loved, he was unwilling to compromise. In the end, he watched as the woman he loved married someone else. Not only that, after the woman married, although Mo Zhengyang felt that it was a pity, he was only depressed for a while. Soon, he was in high spirits again. However, the young lady was different. A year after the marriage, she died in childbirth. Because the eldest young lady's parents had already passed away and she had an heir, the husband naturally became the beneficiary of the family property. The so-called marrying into the family became empty words after the death of the woman, and the son took the surname of the man. 3 years later, the husband remarried, and the entire family changed hands. It had been more than 40 years since that incident. According to Elder Shu, Mo Zhengyang only regretted it when he learned of the death of his beloved, but it was already too late. Since then, he had been studying calligraphy, painting, cultural relics, and history. He had never married in his entire life. The reason why she remembered so clearly was not because of Mo Zhengyang, but because of Elder Shu. Old Man Shu rarely talked to her about what happened in the capital, but he talked about Mo Zhengyang and the young lady in great detail. When this matter was mentioned, Old Man Shu's face was filled with emotion and blame. He said that if Mo Zhengyang had been willing to lower his head back then, many things would not have happened. Seeing Old Man Shu's expression, she took it to heart and committed it to memory. Now, seeing Jing Yunjiao's expression, Mo Zhengyang said, "Looking at you, you've heard of my name before?" Mo Zhengyan's name could be said to be the living signboard of a university. Not only a university, but the entire Chinese martial arts world had to respect him. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was a national treasure. Regarding this, he was still somewhat confident. "I've heard the elders in my family mention you before," Jing Yunjiao said. "You're from the capital?" Mo Zhengyang asked. "No, my elder used to be from the capital. Later, he went to the Yang province to recuperate. He's half of my pharmacology master," Jing Yunjiao replied. She was wondering if she should mention Elder Shu's name to Professor Mo. Chapter 763. When Jing Yunjiao said that, Mo Zhengyang nodded and revealed an expression that said, "No wonder. Your master has good taste." Jing Yunjiao smiled and nodded. On careful thought, she decided to forget it. After all, when Old Man Shu mentioned Mo Zhengyang, his expression was complicated. There was resentment, blame, and nostalgia. Besides, Mo Zhengyang and Old Man Shu had not seen each other for many years. If she rashly mentioned it, It would probably make Mo Zhangyang recall the past. When that happened, it would only increase his sadness. However, since Mo Zhangyang was someone Old Man Shu knew, and he had once wanted to recommend her to be a national studies teacher, she naturally wouldn't reject him. She cooperated by calling him teacher and promised that she would attend classes on time in the future. It was always good to learn another skill. The two of them stopped at the flower and bird market. Next to the market was a seed market, so there was no need for Jing Yunjiao to specially search for it. It saved time and effort. Professor Mo's destination was also here. He placed his hands behind his back and slowly walked over with his back bent. Jing Yunjiao followed behind. She saw that the old man's target was very clear. He entered a shop and looked at orchids. This is a dendrobium orchid, right? Jing Yunjiao pointed at a pot of flower seedlings and asked. Your eyes are quite sharp. How did you recognize it at a glance? Could it be that your pharmacist is also interested in orchids? Asked Professor Mo. My master is only interested in things that can be used as medicine. The dendrobium orchid is the top of the 9 great immortal herbs, so he naturally loves it a lot, said Jing Yunjiao. She also had some dendrobium orchid in her space, but there weren't many of them. Therefore, every time she saw one, she would definitely buy it. Fangzheng's space was huge, so there was enough space to store it. 9 great immortal herbs. What are the other 8? Professor Mo was also interested. Tianshan snow lotus, 3 tails of ginseng, 120 years old fleeceflower, 60 years old poria cocos, desert cistanche, deep mountain Ganoderma lucidum, seabed pearls, and caterpillar fungus. Jing Yunjiao counted them one by one. I like orchids, but he said that I only know how to admire the appearance of orchids. I'm obsessed with their illusory integrity, but I don't even know what they're used for. I'm not a doctor, so it's fine as long as I know whether they're poisonous or not. I don't care so much. When Professor Mo said this, he looked a little angry and proud. Without guessing, Jing Yunjiao knew who he was talking about. Other than Old Man Shu, there was no one else. The old man was such a person. No matter what was placed in front of him, he would first consider the medicinal properties of such things. For example, in his eyes, a blooming flower was not as beautiful as a dried medicinal herb. Even if the flower was priceless, as long as he felt that it could be used as medicine to save people, he would not hesitate to pluck it and concoct it. He and Professor Mo were two extremes. One was particular about integrity, while the other was only concerned about the effects. If the two of them met, there was a high chance that they would bicker. Jing Yunjiao's personality was much more neutral. She naturally had to study the medicinal properties, but she was calmer than Old Man Shu. Jing Yunjiao picked 3 pots of dendrobium orchid. As for Professor Mo, it was unknown if it was because he thought of Shu Jingji, but he put down the orchids that he had taken a liking to. The moment he walked out, he suddenly muttered, "The flowers will not bloom for long. If they can be plucked, they must be plucked." Jing Yunjiao was stunned. She looked up at the old man and saw that his eyes were flickering for some reason. She was immediately at a loss for words. Indeed, he must have thought of old matters after thinking of old people. Chapter 764. Professor Mo sighed twice and shook his head. He paced back and forth towards the flower shop at the side. There were countless flowers and birdseeds in the market, so Jing Yunjiao didn't think too much about it and started choosing carefully. Not long after, there was no space left in her hands. He bought a lot of medicinal and flower seeds. Professor Mo could not help but be surprised. Other than that, there were also small toys for Hei Di. They looked exquisite and cute. Seeing that Jing Yunjiao was full of things, Professor Mo made a phone call. Not long after, a car stopped at the intersection of the market. "Didn't you say that there was something wrong with my body? You can accompany me to see the doctor. If what you said is wrong, then we'll have to go according to our agreement. Is that okay?" Professor Mo said. Jing Yunjiao nodded and followed him into the car. Jing Yunjiao thought that Professor Mo was going to a big hospital. However, when they passed by 2 big hospitals, Professor Mo did not stop for even a moment. "Professor, didn't you say that we're going to the hospital?" Jing Yunjiao could not help but ask. Hospital? The Li family's dogs have already ruined this hospital. I'm taking you to a Chinese medicine clinic. Professor Mo's face was full of contempt. As he spoke, he did not forget to roll his eyes in the direction of the big hospital. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. He felt that Professor Mo's resentment seemed to be a little deep. The Li family you're talking about, little girl, you're quite curious. However, you're a child from another city. Even if I tell you, you might not know. The Li family has a certain amount of shares in all the big hospitals. The big medical families are also in awe of the Li family. It's a pity that this was all stolen by the Li family. A son-in-law who doesn't even know how to take a pulse has been occupying a magpie's nest for so many years. His skin is getting thicker and thicker. Professor Mo's words were more for himself. His voice was very soft and his eyes were filled with anger. He looked a little childish. Jing Yunjiao felt that this was very familiar. It was almost similar to Old Man Shu. When Old Man Shu was drunk, he would often mention the words a turtle dove occupying a magpie's nest. It was very strange. Through the car window, Jing Yunjiao looked at the building that was dozens of stories high. Although it was far away, he could feel its grandeur. The car sped past, and the scenery did not linger in front of Jing Yunjiao for too long. Soon, the car stopped in front of a very quaint-looking clinic. From the outside, the clinic was not small and had an elegant design. Through the glass door, one could see the heavy and tall medicine cabinets inside, as well as the medical apprentices and apprentices who were dressed formally. It was very formal. Let's go in, Professor Mo said. As soon as he entered the clinic, a medicinal fragrance wafted over. Immediately, a young medical apprentice came forward and said, Professor Mo, are you here to see Master? She's in the back hall. Lead us there. Professor Mo nodded. As he spoke, he raised his foot and walked through the front and into the backyard. After walking through the long backyard path, he finally arrived at the back hall. Jing Yunjiao could not help but be a little surprised. This was capital city, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Almost all the nearby buildings were high-rise buildings. However, there was an unusually quaint and small building that occupied a large area here. It was indeed a little strange. This place has a history of more than 40 years. It was originally attached to the hospital next door, but it was later separated. All these years, the hospital also wanted to buy this place and raise it to the ground, but they never succeeded. Sensing Jing Yunjiao's confusion, Professor Mo was not stingy with his explanation. Jing Yunjiao nodded in surprise. At this time, he had already seen the back hall. Chapter 765. It was simple and unadorned. The windows were all open and there were some fresh orchids in the room. The smell was not strong. As soon as he entered, he was surprised to see covered memorial tablets placed on the table. There were portraits hanging on the walls of the room. Some were old, some were more modern, but no matter what, they all felt a little strange. If it was in ancient times, this would be an ancestral hall for worshipping the ancestors. But in this day and age, such a place suddenly appeared in the middle of a busy city. It made it difficult for her to calm down. Did I scare you? Professor Mo raised his eyebrows and asked. He did not see Jing Yunjiao's expression when he was in the car just now. The ancestors of the immortal Crane Hall are displayed here. The current owner of this clinic is the only successor of the immortal Crane Hall. As for the immortal Crane Hall, forget it, it's useless for a child like you to know. Professor Mo also felt a little strange. After seeing Jing Yunjiao, he could not help but say things that he should not say. This was too strange. Jing Yunjiao raised his head and looked at the memorial tablets. These memorial tablets were all covered with black cloth and looked gloomy. As for the portraits on the wall, Jing Yunjiao could not help but take a few more glances at them. There were men and women in the portraits. Some had white hair and youthful faces. Some looked like immortals. From ancient times until now, the latest one was a woman in her early 20s. The photo was black and white and the woman's hairstyle was probably a few decades ago. She looked friendly and beautiful. One could not help but have a good impression of her at first glance. Her name is Wen Yu. If she was alive, she would be someone who could be your grandmother. Professor Mo looked at the photo with a nostalgic and complicated expression. He opened his mouth and laughed. After saying that, he walked over and lit 3 joss sticks for the memorial tablets whose names could not be seen before entering the room. What a strange place. Jing Yunjiao felt as if he had transmigrated. A feeling of unreality arose spontaneously. Yu Fu. After Professor Mo entered the room, he called out to an old woman who was reading a book at the table with reading glasses. The woman was in her 50s. Her face was cold and stern. When she saw Professor Mo, her eyes were filled with disgust. Mo Zhengyang, are you still alive? The old woman asked coldly. Professor Mo sat down. He's just a bag of old bones. He should be getting old soon. The old woman did not even look him in the eye. Jing Yunjiao was a little puzzled. Old man Shu said that Mo Zhengyang was a very arrogant person, but at this moment, he was like a coward. He was treated like this by the old woman, but he still had a fawning expression on his face and did not have any temper at all. It was really strange. Why are you looking for me? I remember telling you that this is not a place where you can come, the old woman said again, her voice filled with anger. This little girl said that my health is not very good, so I wanted to come and see you, Professor Mo said. The old woman snorted. Give me your hand. Professor Mo cooperated and put his wrist on the medicine pillow. Jing Yunjiao was even more confused. Didn't this old woman hate Professor Mo? Why was she so willing to treat him? The world of the older generation was really complicated. Liver depression and qi stagnation. It's not serious at the moment. I'll give you a few prescriptions. You'll be fine as long as you take them on time. The old woman's expression remained unchanged. Professor Mo retracted his hand in astonishment and glanced at Jing Yunjiao. You actually got it right, brat. Chapter 766. He only wanted to give it a try, but he did not expect Jing Yunjiao to be right about the condition. Since Wen Yu's death, Immortal Crane Hall no longer had a successor. Although Yu Fu was considered the successor, in her opinion, she was only temporarily preserving the ancestor's legacy. Moreover, she was a stubborn person, always saying that Wen Yu had never accepted her as a disciple, so she was only considered a nominal disciple. Although she had always wanted to accept a disciple for Wen Yu, who had died decades ago, Yu Fu's standards were too high, and there was no one who caught her eye. However, this Jing Yunjiao seemed to be different. If it was her, she should be able to bear the 1,000-year legacy of Immortal Crane Hall, right? Yu Fu, actually, this little girl saw that my ankle was a little swollen, so she guessed that there was something wrong with my body. Her talent is really outstanding. Do you want to keep her? Mo Zhengyang, your ambition is not small. Can anyone inherit Miss Wen Yu's legacy? If you did not care about that lousy reputation back then, she would not have ended up without descendants. The 1,000-year legacy was destroyed because of you, and the huge family changed hands because of you. You still have the face to introduce a disciple to Miss Wen Yu? You, scram. The old woman was furious, and her face was ferocious. Jing Yunjiao originally wanted to say a few words for Professor Mo, but seeing the other party's words, she did not want to help plead for leniency. A 1,000-year legacy sounded quite serious. Professor Mo, after a while, Jing Yunjiao thought for a while and said, actually, other than my pharmacy master, I also have a master who teaches medicine. The pharmacy master was Xu Jingji, and the medicine master was the ancestor, Jing He. All of her current achievements were bestowed by these 2 old men, so naturally, she would not easily change her master. Even if this old woman agreed, she would reject. Professor Mo was stunned. He did not think of this. He had let Wen Yu down, so when he knew that Jing Yunjiao had some medical skills, he lost his sense of propriety and spoke directly. It was indeed rash. He only saw that Jing Yunjiao was young, but forgot that most physicians of this age had a master, and most of the national healer faction had strict rules, so it was impossible to casually acknowledge a master. But then again, it was a pity. Jing Yunjiao had amazing observational skills and a keen sense of smell. He had good medical skills at such a young age, and even, Mo Zhengyang sighed. I was thinking too much just now. The old woman was a little surprised. She thought that the little girl in front of her had already prepared an excuse with Mo Zhengyang. She did not expect her to suddenly say this. From the looks of it, was it just a coincidence? Did you just say that she saw through your illness? The old woman asked. Yes, exactly. Look, this is the prescription she gave me. It's exactly the same as yours. Professor Mo took out the piece of paper. The old woman took it and looked at it. Her eyes were full of shock. She stared at Jing Yunjiao and asked, Little girl, what's your name? Jing Yunjiao. Surnamed Jing? The old woman's hands trembled. Jing Yunjiao nodded in confusion. Mo Zhengyang, did you really not do it on purpose? It was such a coincidence that he brought a girl with the surname Jing and medical skills here. If it was not premeditated, she would not believe it. Yu Fu, if I, Mo Zhengyang, was that kind of person, I would have lowered my head and married when you back then. We have interacted many times over the years, and I will repent to Wen Yu for the rest of my life until the day I die of old age. This is what Wen Yu said, and what you told me. All these years, I have been fulfilling your wishes and have never had any thoughts. I am not a member of the Li family, so you don't have to think of me like that. Chapter 767. After Professor Mo finished speaking, the room fell silent. Jing Yunjiao only felt that her head was about to explode. Today was a bit strange. At first, it was Du Rongyang who suddenly targeted her. Then, it was the strange danger on the bus. Now, she knew about the past of another family. Everything should have nothing to do with her, but they suddenly came to her door. It was too strange. It was as if a story had been arranged in advance. But now, she understood a little. The young lady from a big family that Mo Zhengyang had betrayed because of his dignity should be Miss Wen Yu in the photo on the wall. Of course, although she was a young lady, it was decades ago, so according to her seniority, it was okay to call her grandma. And this grandma Wen Yu later married a son-in-law who moved in with his family. The son-in-law's surname was Li. That Li man eventually relied on grandma Wen Yu to become the owner of those big hospitals. The rich circle was really messy. But it was a little strange. Old man Shu clearly said that Grandma Wen Yu died decades ago because she gave birth to a child. He only said that the adult died, but did not say that the child died as well. How did it end up with no descendants? Mo Zhengyang, you're right. You've been proud your whole life. You really can't do that kind of thing. Don't worry, as your doctor, I won't let you die. No matter what, I'll let you live a long life. The old woman said eerily. If he died, how would he repay the debt of the past? Back then, the young lady begged him, hoping that he would abandon the so-called traditional dignity and take a step back for her. But he refused no matter what. He said that a man shouldn't worry about not having a wife. He said that being a son-in-law was embarrassing the ancestors. Indeed, it was difficult for him. But back then, the young lady said very clearly that as long as the eldest son took the young lady's surname, the other children could take the Mo surname. But he felt that it was impossible. He even blamed the young lady for valuing the family too much, saying that she valued power and status more than she valued him. Those words back then made the young lady despair for a long time. He didn't care at all that the young lady had 1,000 years of inheritance, the family teachings, the ancestral teachings, and the wishes of her parents. How selfish was this man? If it weren't for him breaking her heart, the young lady wouldn't have married the son of a butler who was willing to move in with his family unconditionally. In the end, the young lady wouldn't have been robbed and taken over by that Li. Mo Zhengyan's face darkened, but he seemed to be used to the old woman's attitude. He just stared at the photo on the wall for a while before he got up and left. Jing Yunjiao also prepared to leave, but after taking 2 steps, he heard the woman say, Jing Yunjiao, can you stay? I have something to ask you. Jing Yunjiao was helpless. Today was really not a good day to go out. Doctor, what's the matter? Jing Yunjiao asked. You're a student of a university, aren't you? The old lady asked. Jing Yunjiao nodded. This is the Celestial Crane Hall, a place to practice medicine and get medicine. I see that your medical skills are quite good, can you come over and help? The old lady asked. Miss Wenyu's spirit in heaven would definitely like a girl with the surname Jing and medical skills. Jing Yunjiao was stunned, then he heard the old lady say, since you know medical skills, you can take it as an extra job. If you have time, you can come over and be responsible for getting medicine. Occasionally, you can light incense for these memorial tablets. Of course, it's just incense. You don't have to clean up usually. I'll give you a salary every month. Jing Yunjiao was even more confused after hearing this. She clearly felt that the old lady's main reason for looking for her was not to get medicine, but to light incense for the latter. This was the first time she saw someone hire someone to light incense. Although she was somewhat interested in this clinic, it was too strange for someone to light incense for someone who had no relatives or friends. Naturally, she couldn't accept it. Chapter 768. Jing Yunjiao immediately shook her head and said, Doctor, if you're just here to help me get medicine, I won't refuse. But forget about offering incense. This is an ancestral hall, and it's not suitable for outsiders like me to enter. Sorry to disturb you. After saying that, Jing Yunjiao walked away. There was a doctor in charge of diagnosing patients in the front, and the back hall was indeed a private area. Even a medicine boy could not be seen. It was obvious that if there was no special reason, no one would come here. The old woman behind was stunned. She did not expect Jing Yunjiao to reject her so decisively. After all, this little girl came with Mo Zhengyang. She subconsciously thought that this little girl should be someone who was instructed by Mo Zhengyang to be extremely obedient. But she did not expect that it was not as she thought. However, since she had rejected her, she had nothing else to say. She did not go forward to ask her to stay. At this time, Professor Mo was still waiting in the car outside. When Jing Yunjiao appeared, he drove away and returned to the school. Along the way, Professor Mo closed his eyes to rest. He was probably not feeling very well. Jing Yunjiao felt that it was okay. Although the day was a little ridiculous, she would not let her imagination run wild over such a small matter. Moreover, these things had nothing to do with her, and she did not have the mood to meddle in other people's business. Who's that old man? Ju Meijuan's voice came from behind before she entered the dormitory. Ju Meijun lived in the same building as her, but it was said that she was very good at winning people's hearts. On the first day of school, she had already found out the dormitory of all her classmates and personally went to give gifts. What does it have to do with you? Jing Yunjiao frowned. That 10 million yuan was given to you by that old man, right? Poor girl, you're with an old man. I feel embarrassed for you, Ju Meijun said with a look of disdain. Jing Yunjiao shook her head. There was nothing to say to this kind of person. Her mind was full of dirty thoughts. Jing Yunjiao, you have good grades and abilities. Why do you have to degrade yourself? Looking at you, are you planning to find a sugar daddy to help you manage some big company after you graduate? But you think too highly of yourself. This world is very realistic. Those men only fancy you because you are young and beautiful. They know very well in their hearts. No matter how considerate you are, as a newcomer, it is impossible for you to replace those qualified employees and become a senior executive. Stop dreaming, Ju Meijun said again. Jing Yunjiao stopped in her tracks and turned around. Ju Meijun looked a little more spirited than before. Obviously, after this class, her pride had been restored, and her arrogance had returned. He and Ju Meijun did not study the same major, but they were very close to each other. They might even bump into each other on the way to class. Are you a blabbermouth? Jing Yunjiao said coldly, you were with a few men just now, right? Is that why your thoughts are so dirty? Ju Meijun, I don't care what you do, but please don't hang around me with such a dirty and disgusting body. I think it stinks. I'm dirty. Jing Yunjiao, you're talking about yourself, right? You have the smell of bad men's cologne on you. In addition, you have the smell of 3 different cigarettes. Your mouth is even a little red and swollen. Didn't you just have intimate contact with a man? You're not clean, but you want to bite me. What a mad dog. Jing Yunjiao said indifferently. She was sure that there were no less than 3 men in contact with Ju Maijun, and at least one of them had a close relationship with her. Chapter 769. When Ju Maijun heard that, a trace of panic appeared on her face. She frowned and secretly sniffed herself, but she did not feel anything wrong with her body. There was indeed a little smell, but it was very faint. Besides, didn't all cigarettes smell the same? How could she smell 3 different kinds of cigarettes? However, Jing Yunjiao was right. She was indeed with a few male friends just now. There were 5 of them. 3 of them used the same type of cigarettes, and one of them did indeed like to spray perfume. It should be a coincidence, or maybe Jing Yunjiao saw it, right? Thinking of this, Ju Maijun felt a little uneasy. Where were you just now? Why, are you worried that I'll peek into your messy private life? Jing Yunjiao looked at her with contempt. I was just having a small gathering with friends. You're different. You came back in an old man's car. Didn't that old man give you so many gifts? If word got out, who would be embarrassed? Besides, I've already taken a picture of it. It's your evidence. Ju Maijun took out her phone to show off. Jing Yunjiao suddenly smiled. Is that so? Unfortunately, I won't give you money to buy a picture. My money won't be spent on a bitch. Jing Yunjiao rarely scolded people so directly, but she couldn't help but feel a lot better after saying bitch. After she finished speaking, she turned around and walked back to her dormitory with disdain. Ju Maijun angrily waited for her back and then made a call. Jing Yunjiao returned to the dormitory for less than 5 minutes when a group of people came to the door. They were playing with Hey Di with a new toy. They were shocked by the sudden appearance of the girls. Hu Tianxian directly said, "Don't you know how to knock? Don't you have any basic manners?" There were about 5 or 6 of them. They had a notebook in their hands and looked serious. Ju Maijun was at the back. Before she said anything, she had already taken a picture with her phone. She seemed to have turned up the volume on purpose. It sounded like KAKA. We're from the student union. We're here to check the hygiene of your dormitory. Ju Maijun smiled and then said, "Pets are not allowed in the dormitory. Don't you know this rule? I'll deduct your points. Also, hand over your pet." As Ju Maijun spoke, several other people had already broken into the dormitory and started pointing at other places. Whose quilt is this? If you don't pass, your apartment will be deducted. The table is too messy. Also, what kind of mess is this? The desk is a place for you to study, not for you to put your beauty products. What's with the packaging on the floor? It was filthy. Oh my god, is this still a bathroom? Chatter on and on. Jing Yunjiao was not averse to cleaning, but it was different when Ju Maijun brought people to do it. Yarrow Baobao had lost the bet with Hu Tianxian, so she was responsible for cleaning the dormitory this month. Jing Yunjiao and the other 2 also wanted to train her hands-on skills, so they did not help much. The room was indeed a bit messy, but it was too much to say that it was filthy. The packaging on the floor was made of paper. There were only 2 or 3 of them, and they were placed together. The tables were actually quite clean. There was no trash, and it was normal for the quilt to be messy at night. As for the bathroom, it was needless to say. There were a lot of skincare products in it. Moreover, Yarrow Baobao had just taken a shower, so there was still some steam and water stains everywhere. As the saying goes, a crime committed by force can be easily justified. Even if they explained now, no one would listen. Jing Yunjiao, what are you waiting for? Hand over your pet. Do you want more points to be deducted? Chapter 770. Ju Maijun had a mocking smile on her face. After saying that, she went forward to grab Hey Di from the table. However, as soon as she extended her hand, Hey Di flew up with a flapping sound. It was only a month old and wasn't very big. However, ravens were much smarter than other birds. Sensing Ju Maijun's malicious intent, Hey Di immediately pecked at Ju Meijun's hand. Ah! Ju Meijun cried out in pain. Hey Di circled in the air and landed on Jing Yunjiao's shoulder. Its black feathers shone with a purplish-blue light under the light, giving it a noble feeling. Its neck was high and proud, as if it despised Ju Meijun in front of it. It's really like the person who raised the beast, Ju Meijun said angrily. She didn't expect Jing Yunjiao's dormitory to have a pet. She just wanted to get someone to check the dormitory and deduct points, but she didn't expect to see a few people surrounding a blackbird when she entered the door. This bird was playing very well with the others just now, but she didn't expect it to be so fierce towards her. She originally wanted to confiscate it and sell it or give it away, but now it seemed that it deserved to be killed. My Hey Di has good taste. Be good and I'll reward you. Jing Yunjiao didn't expect Hey Di to have such a strong reaction. He took out a piece of Hey Di's snack and put it in its mouth. Hand it over. Jing Yunjiao, the dormitory doesn't allow pets, don't you know? Ju Meijun said again. What if I don't hand it over? Jing Yunjiao's face was calm and his eyes were cold. Deduct points. Then you can deduct it. Jing Yunjiao smiled. I've seen many people who use a chicken feather as a token of authority. That's all you can do. Come on time every day to give me fun. It's been hard on you. She did not put Ju Meijun in her eyes. Even now, when she saw Ju Meijun's angry and ferocious look, she found it funny. Ju Meijun's expression turned ugly when she heard that. She gritted her teeth and said, 20 points deducted every day for keeping a pet. That's enough for you. So the rules are set by the student union. I've learned something new. Jing Yunjiao remained unmoved. She knew the rules of this dormitory. Pets were indeed not allowed, especially those that had not been tested for hygiene and epidemic prevention. Although it was a rule, it had always been optional. Most dormitories would keep some small animals such as turtles, goldfish, and even rabbits. They did not take up space and did not affect the rest of the roommates. Even if there was a hygiene inspection, they would only remind them. As long as it was not a cat or a dog, these noisy animals would not be deducted points. Even if points were deducted, it wouldn't be done every day. Classmate, it's indeed wrong for you to have a pet. Our student union isn't targeting you, the person next to Ju Meijun immediately said. Jing Yunjiao smiled, since you're not targeting me, then let's search for all the pets in this dormitory and then deduct points together. Also, since I'm raising a pet, I've definitely looked up the relevant information. According to what I know, there was a senior who suggested that students can raise pets as long as their roommates don't have any objections and provide the relevant hygiene certificates, as well as guarantee that it won't affect other students' safety and rest. This suggestion was obviously approved, right? It's just that there are restrictions on keeping pets, so the rules haven't been changed, right? The other person was stunned. He didn't expect Jing Yunjiao, a freshman, to know this. Chapter 771. Some of the seniors were clear about this verbal rule. As long as Jing Yunjiao provided some proof, they had no right to say anything. I don't mind if you want to deduct points, but you have to follow the rules. Even if this room isn't completely up to standard, it's not too far off. If I'm not satisfied with the deduction of points, I don't mind posting the student union's actions on the forum, Jing Yunjiao said. After speaking, he took out his phone and started recording. Every nook and cranny of the room was recorded, including Ju Meijun's glaring face that looked like she wanted to eat someone. This way, even if they wanted to deduct points, they wouldn't lose too many points. Jing is right. I'm going to register an account now. Every time you come to check, I'll broadcast it online so that everyone can be witnesses. It's only interesting if it's fair and open. Anyway, there's no man hiding in this room. What's there to be afraid of? Hu Tianxian's eyes lit up. After speaking, she directly turned on her computer, logged into a university's forum, and registered an account. After the two of them said that, the student union members didn't look too good. They did have the intention to stand up for Ju Meijun, but now it seemed like they wouldn't be able to do so. There's trash on the floor. Deduct 5 points from the head of the dorm. Personal belongings in the room are messy. Deduct 5 points from everyone. The head of the dorm took the lead in raising a pet, but didn't provide proof. Deduct 20 points from him. After speaking with a gloomy face, the leader glanced at Hua Tianxian and Jing Yunjiao's phone camera and walked out without another word. After the leader left, Jing Yunjiao casually threw his phone on the bed. Hua Tianxian, on the other hand, pretended to save the video. She busied herself with the computer and uploaded the video in a short while. Great deity, isn't it inappropriate to post our dorm's photos online? Yarrow Baobao's face was conflicted. She had just showered and was wearing thin bunny pajamas. She didn't know if it was photographed. If it was, it would be too ugly. Of course it has to be posted. Otherwise, they'll think that I'm just saying it to scare them. Besides, they said that there's trash on the floor. Is this trash? It's just 2 paper bags. Our belongings are much neater and cleaner than the other dorms. Chimpage. Hua Tianxian snorted softly, and a black aura seemed to spread around her. Jing Yunjiao also agreed with this. The 4 people in their dorm room were all rather particular, especially Hua Tianxian. She had a perverted demand for her private life, demanding perfection in everything. Therefore, the things in the room weren't messy at all, it was just that there were a lot of personal belongings. The only one who was unreasonable was the Black Emperor. However, it was easy to get the documents for the hygiene inspection. Li Xiaoyun might even have them. He just had to ask him later. As soon as the video was uploaded, many people replied. Of course, most of them were boys. After all, a place like the female dormitory had an irresistible temptation for boys. However, other than the boys, there were also some girls who wandered around online. It can't be. Points had to be deducted for this. Then if you come to our dormitory, wouldn't 500 basic points be gone in a day? Everything is very neat and tidy. Moreover, it's spotless. I really don't understand the actions of the student council. Also, many of my friends have pets. They haven't had their points deducted for 2 or 3 years. It's so pitiful to have points deducted for the first time as a new student. The person above is focusing on the wrong thing. As a girl, I can see how classy this dormitory is at first glance. The skincare products on the table are more expensive than gold. The person living in this dormitory is definitely a rich young lady. Chapter 772. Isn't it just some bottles and jars? It's too exaggerated to say that it's more expensive than gold. I wouldn't want it even if you gave it to me, the visitor on the 17th floor said. Idiot upstairs, if you don't want it, we'll take it. A bottle of skincare products is more expensive than school fees. I can guarantee that those beautiful girls in the student council are jealous. Otherwise, why would they be so fierce and deduct points? Am I the only one who noticed that the blackbird with 20 points deducted is very domineering? Upstairs, you're not the only one, +1. Hey Di's ability to attract fans was very strong, especially because he was very photogenic. He stood on Jing Yunjiao's shoulder obediently without making a sound, like a mysterious guardian in the movies. Any girl would definitely not be able to resist his domineering CEO charm. Jing someone sent me a private message asking for Hey Di's name. Should I tell them? Also, they want a close-up of Hey Di. Hua Tianxian asked Jing Yunjiao while eating snacks. Sure, Jing Yunjiao answered directly. As soon as Jing Yunjiao said that, Hua Tianxian snatched Hey Di without saying anything. She raised her phone and took a selfie with Hey Di. However, Hey Di was a little different from before. Although it was standing on Hua Tianxian's shoulder, its head was turned to the side, far away from Hua Tianxian's neck. It looked like it despised her. Deduct points, deduct points. Hey Di suddenly shouted. Hua Tianxian was stunned. No way. I wanted it to learn how to call my name. I didn't expect it to confuse the second word so carelessly. Jing Yunjiao was also shocked. Hey Di's learning ability was too strong. Thanks to the student council, Jing Er's Hey Di learned the second word. Can anyone guess what it is? Hua Tianxian continued to post with a face full of resentment. This time, she attached a picture of Hey Di. The rate of replies increased exponentially. Inspection. The first poster replied. Student council. The second poster followed. Deduct points. The fifth poster added. Wait, this isn't eighth brother. How can it speak? You guys are so funny. The 10th comment found the main point. Those on the 10th floor, go look for information yourself. This is a raven. Not only can it learn human language, it can also imitate the sounds of its surroundings. It's scary to be uncultured. Actually, I want to know what the first word Black Emperor learned was. It can't be mama, right? Hua Tianxian was having a lot of fun, and Jing Yunjiao didn't pay much attention to her. As soon as she laid down on the bed, Hey Di ignored Hua Tianxian and flew directly back to Jing Yunjiao's side. He ignored the small house that Jing Yunjiao had bought for her and just stared at her obediently on her shoulder, which made Hua Tianxian exclaim in surprise. Hey Di abandoned me to find master. After leaving the last post, Hua Tianxian turned off the computer with a face full of envy. At this time, Jing Yunjiao sent a message to Li Xiaoyun and briefly explained the issue of the hygiene and immunity test. Li Xiaoyun was very direct and said that he would send it over early in the morning, which made her feel relieved and saved her a lot of trouble. How was it today? Li Xiaoyun asked. Jing Yunjiao thought for a while and replied, I ate a lot and was very happy. I even attacked the enemy. Not bad. She was obviously referring to Hey Di. However, when Li Xiaoyun saw the line of words, the corner of his mouth twitched. How did you attack? By pecking? Jing Yunjiao felt that Li Xiaoyun was asking the obvious. Is that so? It's better to be conservative in some areas. Next time, you can use your hands and feet, but not your mouth. Jing Yunjiao saw it and instantly felt embarrassed. Chapter 773. Li Xiaoyun's strange behavior wasn't something new. Jing Yunjiao didn't take it to heart at all. However, it felt a little special to be able to report to someone via text every day. It was as if he had a family. However, after chatting for a while, Jing Yunjiao shifted his attention from his phone to his books. After the lights were turned off, he had a good night's sleep. However, that night, under the circumstances that Jing Yunjiao and the others didn't know, a lot of things happened. Many students in the school remembered Hey Di's face, especially after Hua Tianxian left a message saying, Hey Di went to find his master. Many people wondered what the crazy and cool owner of Hey Di looked like. Although they saw Hey Di standing on his master's shoulder in the video, Hua Tianxian restrained herself and didn't take a picture of Jing Yunjiao's face. This caused many people to be very curious. What kind of weird personality did the girl who had a pet like Raven have? Apart from that, Ju Maijun also immediately turned on her computer to look at the posts after she returned home. Seeing the neatly organized water army criticizing the student union, her heart was filled with unbearable anger, especially when she saw so many people praising the pitch-black ferocious pet on Jing Yunjiao's shoulder. That unbalanced feeling emerged once again. She couldn't hold it in any longer and uploaded a photo of Jing Yunjiao and an old man getting off the car together. The picture was secondary. The main problem was Ju Meijun's wording. The girl with the surname Jing comes from a poor family. She has no parents. In order to flaunt her relationship with an old man in his 60s, she went shopping in a luxurious car. In the picture, the old man's face couldn't be seen. Only his back could be seen. However, Jing Yunjiao's face was very clear. The next morning, when Jing Yunjiao came out of the dormitory, he saw many people looking at him with disdain. It was as if he had returned to the time when he was surrounded by rumors in high school. Jing Yunjiao was very straightforward. He stopped someone and asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" The other party didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to be so direct. He was shocked by the look and quickly said, "The forum. Aren't you that?" Jing Yunjiao was stunned. Was it because of Hey Di? Impossible. She had told Hua Tianxian not to take pictures of her face. She didn't like the feeling of being stared at. Besides, if it was because of Hey Di, everyone's expressions wouldn't be so full of disgust. Aren't you Jing Yunjiao, who has a relationship with an old man in his 60s? I didn't say that. There are pictures of you on the forum. The person immediately said. When Jing Yunjiao heard this, she understood. He quickly took a look at the forum on his phone. Because it was a campus forum, it was not very popular. However, the number of replies had already reached several thousand. Most of the comments were one-sided. Many of the male students were extremely resentful. They all said that most of the beautiful girls had been slept with, while the female students said that the male students were biased and that they were all straight men. In short, she was considered popular in school because she had no parents, because she was beautiful, and because she knew how to hook up with a rich man even though she was still a freshman. Jing Yunjiao originally thought that she would be angry, but in the end, it was the opposite. A smile appeared on her face. To S, N. To T to A. Some people just liked to court death. Just like the group of reporters the He and Xiao families hired, the more trouble they caused, the better it would be for her. Jing Yunjiao's smile made everyone think that she had gone crazy, their faces full of shock. Hu Tianxian and the rest were even more confused. Jing are you okay? Do you want me to find someone to hack the forum? If it doesn't work, I'll ask my parents to pressure the Zhu family and ask Zhu Maijun to drop out. Chapter 774. At this moment, Hu Tianxian still thought that Jing Yunjiao had been provoked. After all, she didn't know that old man, and even though that car was far from the word luxury car, it was still worth a lot. Jing Yunjiao was also an orphan and had no blood relations. Other people's words could drown her alive. No need, I actually think that this rumor is pretty good. Jing Yunjiao raised her eyebrows and smiled, as clear as the wind. What? Hu Tianxian was stunned. She reached out and touched Jing Yunjiao's forehead. You don't have a fever, do you? Jing how can you tolerate this? The word kept doesn't sound good. Besides, it's only been one night. In 2 days, the rumor about you will be everywhere. By then, your reputation will be ruined. Don't worry. Jing Yunjiao pushed her hand away and dragged her back to class. Jing Yunjiao had been very popular in class before because of her beauty and ability. But now, after this incident, the expressions of her classmates changed. Your notes. Han Nan, the class monitor, returned the notes with a speechless face. Jing Yunjiao didn't care. He went to class as usual. Just as Hu Tianxian had said, over the past 2 days, the situation had become more and more ferocious. There were even people on the forum who had edited the picture of her and Mo Zhengyang walking together, cutting off her profile picture and deliberately pasting it on some random cats and dogs, as if she had done something extremely evil, allowing people to vent their anger at will. Jing Yunjiao had been very quiet. Her condition was a bit too good. Every day, after class, she would disappear for a few hours. Everyone in the dorm was confused. You're A and you still want to pretend to be a chaste person? You're pretending to be noble and virtuous. What a joke. Every now and then, someone would pass by Jing Yunjiao's dorm and shout loudly. Pa. Hu Tianxian's face turned green. She slammed the comb on the table. Jing Yunjiao, did you swallow a moron? What's in it for you to let people talk nonsense like this? I've never seen someone as cowardly as you. If I were you, I'd definitely tear those mouths apart. Hu Tianxian roared angrily. Jing Yunjiao put down his book and said softly, Don't be angry. It'll be over soon. What do you mean? Hu Tianxian was still angry. I didn't tell you guys because I was afraid that you guys would reveal the truth before the matter got out of hand. However, I didn't think that your reaction would be so big. I'm sorry, I actually already had plans. This old man in his 60s is my teacher, Jing Yunjiao explained. Teacher? The 3 of them were confused. We happened to meet before, so he took me in as his student. His name is Mo Zhengyang, and he's a big shot in the Chinese martial arts world. He's never married, and he's upright and proud. He's always been very particular about a person's morals. I've been going to his place after class these past 2 days to learn from him. My teacher doesn't know about cyber violence, nor does he pay attention to such things, so I'm not sure. But tomorrow, he'll be bringing me to the Chinese painting and calligraphy exhibition. Jing Yunjiao explained in detail. The Chinese painting and calligraphy exhibition was held within the school. They were all students' works. When the time came, the paintings would be displayed on both sides of the school's main road filled with flowers and trees. Mo Zhengyang had said that he would be there to give his comments. Hence, the school's leaders placed great importance on it. The dean would personally appear to reward the students. Of course, Mo Zhengyang didn't intend to participate in the exhibition. After all, it was just a bunch of works that he didn't like. But he couldn't stand her request these past 2 days, so he said that he would be there to give his comments. Chapter 775. Students from other faculties might not be familiar with Mo Zhengyan's name, but those who were involved in Chinese martial arts were full of admiration for him. Although he was a professor at a university, he would only attend 1 or 2 classes every month. Every class would be filled to the brim with students, and some would even sit outside to listen in. Each of his paintings and calligraphy pieces were worth millions or even tens of millions. However, he was not a businessman, so he rarely sold his paintings to the public. The few times he did, it was for charity. In terms of character, ability, and influence, he was unrivaled in all aspects. Mo Zhengyang. Are you talking about the Mo Zhengyang who is well versed in Chinese painting, calligraphy, history, and archaeology? Hua Tianxian asked in shock. That's right, Jing Yunjiao said. Everyone in the room was stunned for a few seconds. Just as Jing Yunjiao and Yarrow Baobao were at a loss, Hua Tianxian suddenly screamed. I worried about you for nothing. Although I've never seen Mo Zhengyang before, I have a painting of him in my house. My dad treats this painting like a treasure and won't even let me touch it. Back then, he spent nearly 10 million to buy it, but now, the price has increased by a few times. Moreover, it's not about the painting. Mo Zhengyang has a great reputation, and my dad is a fan of his. When I applied to a university, if it wasn't for the sake of having a successor for the company, my dad would probably have let me major in Chinese painting. Jing Yunjiao was also a little surprised. He did not expect that to be the case. However, it was not surprising. Hua Tianxian was from the capital, and her parents were not ordinary people. It was natural for her to know about Mo Zhengyang. You're his student. Hua Tianxian suddenly smiled flatteringly. Jing Yunjiao immediately stood up with goosebumps. Hua Tianxian, the daughter of a rich family, had never looked at someone with such an expression before. It made her feel a little unlucky. That's right. She was a little speechless. Then, it shouldn't be a problem for him to sell a few paintings to me, right? Jing you probably don't know, but his calligraphy and paintings are very expensive. If I can get 1 or 2 of them for my father, then my pocket money will definitely increase. Most importantly, no matter what, my father will find that stinky instructor Qi Zhong for me, Hua Tianxian said. After the military training, she had already asked her parents to help her find out more about Qi Zhong in the army. Who knew that when she asked again today, her parents actually told her not to mess around, and the matter was left unsettled. Why are you looking for Qi Zhong? Jing Yunjiao was stunned. An eye for an eye. Hua Tianxian said matter-of-factly. Jing Yunjiao blushed with shame and silently lit a candle for Qi Zhong. Speaking of which, I should be meeting with Qi Zhong in a few days. I'll let you know when we're done. Hua Tianxian's eyes lit up when she heard that. Great. By the way, do you have Qi Zhong's phone number? Jing Yunjiao nodded. Give it to me. Hua Tianxian grinned and immediately stretched out her hand. She was in high spirits. At this moment, all of her worries had disappeared. She even heard the mocking and gossiping outside. She was so happy that she tossed and turned in her bed. She could not wait to see what would happen the next day. That night, apart from Jing Yunjiao, the other 3 did not sleep well. When they woke up in the morning, they all had dark circles under their eyes, but they were all in a good mood. After all, Jing Yunjiao had been a coward for 2 or 3 days, which had affected them greatly. But now, it was time for them to hold their heads high. The early autumn breeze was very comfortable. Classes were held in the morning as usual, and Mo Zhangyang showed up at noon. In the morning, the scenic paths in the campus were filled with all kinds of paintings and paintings. Many people stopped to admire them. Chapter 776. Most of the paintings present were about people, flowers, birds, mountains, and rivers. They looked very artistic and made people immerse themselves in them. Jing Yunjiao said that she would go with Mo Zhangyang, so she immediately went to Mo Zhangyan's teaching place after class. When she saw his clothes, she pursed her lips and smiled. Coincidentally, Professor Mo was wearing the same clothes he wore when they went to the market that day. "Xiao Jing, you don't seem to be in a good mood today." Professor Mo looked at Jing Yunjiao and felt that something was wrong. This child was usually very steady and did not show his emotions. However, he seemed to be in a good mood today. There was a smile on his face, which made people feel a little cold. "Teacher, I just can't wait to admire those paintings," Jing Yunjiao said. "Is that so?" She didn't seem like it. However, after interacting with her for the past 3 days, he was extremely satisfied with Jing Yunjiao. A person's personality could be seen from the way they conducted themselves. He was a person with high expectations, especially when it came to writing and painting. He was extremely strict, but this girl's tolerance was very high. No matter what he said, she would listen patiently. If she knew where she was lacking, she would correct it. She was very smart and understood everything he said with just a hint. This girl also firmly remembered everything he said. Originally, he felt that he was a little impulsive in accepting students, but now he felt lucky. She was a good seedling. She was patient, smart, and had a unique temperament. Every time she was immersed in painting, she felt as if she had merged with the ink. He could not help but be amazed. It was a pity that she learned it too late. Otherwise, with her talent, she would have been famous long ago. Mo Zhangyang sighed and went downstairs with Jing Yunjiao. Mo Zhangyang hated being disturbed, so the building was very quiet. It was also his staff dormitory. There were not many people around. The two of them walked through a small path and walked into the crowd. If it was Mo Zhangyang alone, it wouldn't have attracted the attention of others. After all, there were millions of old men in the world. The previous photos didn't show his face, so no one knew who he was. But now that he appeared together with Jing Yunjiao, it was completely different. Although there were many students who knew Mo Zhangyang, there were even more people who came to watch the exhibition. Those people did not know who Mo Zhangyang was, so it immediately became lively. Heavens, isn't this too arrogant? She's really thick-skinned to actually bring this dirty old man around the school. One is a frivolous old man, and the other is a materialistic little bitch. They've really refreshed my worldview. That's right, I've never seen such a shameless person. Even if she wants to live off an old man, she should keep a low profile. Speaking of which, why does this old man look so familiar? The crowd was noisy, and Mo Zhangyang was not deaf. How could he not hear it? At first, he might have been a little confused, but the more he heard, the angrier he became. Were these people talking about him and Jing Yunjiao? What's going on? Jing Yunjiao looked at Mo Zhangyang's appearance and pitied him for a while. He was already so old, yet he was still being criticized by others. He must have felt wronged, but master and disciple were still one family. She had already been scolded by others for 3 days, and it had only been a short while. Moreover, the scolding had already disappeared. Moreover, it took 2 hands to clap. She had been slandered, and as one of the parties involved, Professor Mo should have the right to know. "That's Professor Mo," someone in the crowd said. Mo Zhangyang was so angry that he wanted to flick his sleeves and leave. When he was leaving, he ran into the dean and a few leaders who had rushed over. "Old Mo, what's wrong with you?" the dean asked curiously. Chapter 777. The dean knew that Mo Zhengyang did not have a good temper. The two of them had known each other for decades, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that they were good friends. Ridiculous. I'm so pissed off. Mo Zhengyang was so anxious that he blurted out a genteel phrase. The dean immediately knew that something bad had happened. Although Mo Zhengyang had a bad temper, he was only angry about things and not people. It was rare for him to fly into a rage like this. What's going on? The dean looked at Jing Yunjiao and asked unhappily. She was the only student beside Mo Zhengyang, and she followed him closely. Why are you yelling at her? Mo Zhengyang was immediately angry and said, when did the atmosphere in this school become so bad? Huh! How dare she say that I'm old and indecent in front of me? I'd like to ask the students who spoke just now, how am I old and indecent? He had lived his life in fear and trepidation. For the sake of his lover who had passed away, he kept a distance from the opposite sex. When he was young, it was not that there were no new women around him, but he never dared to cross the line. Therefore, he had a clean reputation all his life. He also wanted to use this clean reputation to meet Wen Yu, but he did not expect that his old bones would be framed in such a way. The dean was confused. He originally thought that the little girl had angered Mo Zhengyang, but he did not expect that to be the case. He quickly asked someone to invite a few students over and asked, "Tell me, what's going on?" The students were also shocked. Their faces were filled with nervousness. Jing Yunjiao raised her eyebrows, the corner of her mouth carrying a trace of a smile, but it was a bit sinister. In the crowd, Hu Tianxian and the others had been waiting for this scene for a long time, their hearts in their throats. It's a rumor on the forum. Previously on the forum, some people had said that the old man's back looked like Mo Zhengyang, but who was Mo Zhengyang? How could a person who had been extremely noble and virtuous all his life know a new student? Therefore, it was directly ruled out. Rumor? What rumor? What's going on? Mo Zhengyang said angrily. He was an old man who had no interest in the internet, and he did not like the children nowadays who always stared at their phones and computers. He had forgotten how to write, so why would he pay attention to such things? Now that he was reminded by the student, the leader next to the dean immediately started to check. When he checked his phone, he broke out in cold sweat. Mo Zhengyang was the living signboard of their school. If he were to resign in a fit of anger, then a university would have offended a prominent figure in the Chinese martial arts world. To the students, that would be a huge loss. The dean stared at the post for a while before looking at Jing Yunjiao and asking, "Old Mo, these students are just talking nonsense." Nonsense? Just because of this stupid photo? The photo was real, but were these kids so immoral? Just because we sat in the same car, she said that I was her sugar daddy? Making things up without any evidence. This matter must be thoroughly investigated. Also, this child is my disciple. He's the only disciple that I, Mo Zhengyang, have ever accepted as a disciple. Mo Zhengyang added. These words shocked everyone present. Mo Zhengyang was a lecturer and had countless students all over the world. However, the meaning of this student was different from what he had said. Mo Zhengyang had taken in many students before and personally taught them. He was very attentive, but he had high expectations for his students. In this world, there were not many who would not bend over for the sake of money. Therefore, most of them were rejected by him in the end and ended up as a former teacher-student relationship. But now, Mo Zhengyang's meaning was completely different. It was a lifelong teacher-student relationship, and a personal disciple at that. Their relationship was closer and stronger. Moreover, Jing Yunjiao's future would be closely related to him, which meant that he was shouldering a heavy responsibility. Of course, no one felt that there was anything wrong with this responsibility. Instead, everyone felt that Jing Yunjiao was not worthy of it. Chapter 778. At that moment, almost everyone was looking at Jing Yunjiao with surprise, envy, and jealousy. With a teacher like Mo Zhengyang, Jing Yunjiao's future would definitely be much smoother than others. Moreover, Mo Zhengyang was a person with real talent. His teaching was very important to students like them. No one could learn all of Mo Zhengyan's skills, but now, Jing Yunjiao had that possibility. But Professor Mo, she isn't a student of the Faculty of Traditional Chinese Studies, someone in the crowd asked in confusion. Everyone only realized what was going on when they heard that. In the past 2 days, Jing Yunjiao had become very famous. Regarding the profession she studied, outsiders still had some understanding of it, but because they were too shocked just now, they didn't think about it. But now that someone had opened their mouth to remind them, everyone couldn't understand Mo Zhengyang's actions. If he wanted to take in a student, he could just choose from the Faculty of Traditional Chinese Studies. He might not be satisfied with ordinary students, but what about graduate students, masters, and doctorates? Many of those people wanted to have a deeper understanding of Mo Zhengyang. Why didn't he choose them? Anyone in the Faculty of Traditional Chinese Studies would have been fine. Why did he choose a student who was not related to him at all? Moreover, Jing Yunjiao majored in management. She would definitely go into business in the future. Everyone knew that Mo Zhengyang hated businessmen the most. So what if she's not from the Faculty of Traditional Chinese Studies? This girl is not a foreigner. What's wrong with learning traditional Chinese studies from me? Mo Zhengyan's face was full of dissatisfaction. His anger had not subsided at all. He continued, "Dean, how should we deal with this matter?" This was an extremely serious blow to his reputation. Inside the post, there was only a simple photo. Jing Yunjiao and Mo Zhengyang did indeed get off the car together, but they didn't have the slightest bit of contact. Previously, because of the post's comments, everyone's first impression was the strongest, but now that they thought about it, Jing Yunjiao's attitude towards the old man was obviously one of respect and politeness. There wasn't the slightest bit of ambiguity. The students were more or less gossipy and hated evil as if it was their personal enemy. They originally thought that since someone had seen it with their own eyes, it was the truth. That was why they felt that Jing Yunjiao had thrown away a university's face, thrown away the women's face. But now, they had nothing to say. They were even a little flustered. At this moment, the dean's anger was not small either. Mo Zhengyang was a noble person. His achievements over the years had brought countless honors to the school. The school could not wait to praise him, so why would they do such a thing to slander his honor? Moreover, this time, they were criticized in front of their students. If this news spread, a university would become a laughingstock. Furthermore, which teacher would dare to get too close to their students in the future? The relationship between teacher and student, the relationship between elders and juniors, would it be distorted in the eyes of outsiders? It was clearly the most revered inheritance, but in the end, it was misunderstood to be disgusting and filthy. Where was the morality? Ask the technical department to investigate. We must find the person who posted the post. Also, list all the people in the post who have strong word. The dean suddenly said. As soon as he said this, everyone was shocked. However, it was too late now. Even if the post was deleted, the traces were still there. They could still investigate it clearly without any reservations. Immediately, everyone panicked and felt guilty. There were already tens of thousands of comments left on this post. Among them, there were quite a few warriors who scolded Jing Yunjiao until she was covered in cuts and bruises. Some people were even scrolling through the comments on their phones during class. Now that there was a strict investigation, it was likely that the number of people implicated would not be small. Chapter 779. Everyone was a little confused. They did not know how things had turned out this way. Jing Yunjiao's lips curled up slightly as she scanned the crowd. There was a hint of a smile in her eyes that was cruel and contemptuous. "Teacher, the exhibition is not over yet. After all, it's the hard work of the students," Jing Yunjiao said. Her cold voice made everyone's heart tremble. They did not know what to say. They felt as if there was a threat. It was as if there was a pressure that came out of nowhere and kept spreading around them. Mo Zhengyang had not vented his anger at that moment, but when he heard Jing Yunjiao's words, he frowned and snorted. "All right, let's continue watching then." Mo Zhengyang wasn't an idiot. He knew that he was being used by Jing Yunjiao, but he didn't think that what Jing Yunjiao did was wrong. Instead, he was angry at someone else. After all, it was a good thing that Jing Yunjiao was smart enough. She was able to think of a way to make him appear at the most suitable time, making him speechless in one fell swoop. Otherwise, a good little girl would definitely become a street rat that everyone hated. He had his temper and pride. Naturally, he hoped that his students would have some backbone and not be bullied by others. Moreover, this matter was indeed related to him. It was only right for him to come forward and solve it. Jing Yunjiao quietly stayed beside Mo Zhengyang. It was as if she had forgotten what had just happened. Her eyes were immersed in the exquisite paintings. She had only learned Chinese painting for 2 or 3 days. She had just learned some basic knowledge of paper and brush, and even some historical knowledge. However, she was indeed interested in the completed paintings and was sincerely appreciating them. However, other than Mo Zhengyang, the dean and some other leaders were still beside her. However, she was not restrained at all. She was minding her own business and admiring the paintings as if there was no one around. The dean was a little surprised when he saw this. He also realized that Jing Yunjiao looked a little familiar. After a while, he asked, "This girl should have good results in the college entrance examination, right?" He paid a lot of attention to the school's enrollment. Every year, he would pay attention to the new talents. The most eye-catching one was a kid from Yang province who scored almost full marks. The school had even sent someone to talk to this kid, but they didn't see him at all. He thought that the kid had been snatched away by another school, but he didn't expect to be surprised when he filled in the application form. When she first entered the school had contacted her and wanted to do some publicity, but they were all rejected. There wasn't even a banner to welcome her. He only had some impression of it because he had read the information. Mo Zhengyang was stunned for a moment. I didn't ask about her results, nor did I specifically check. If he wanted to take in a student, he would take her in. Who cares what kind of score she used to get in? The dean choked and was speechless at Mo Zhengyang. Jing Yunjiao, you're the top scorer of this year's college entrance examination in Yang province, right? The dean confirmed. This name and appearance were very familiar, so there was no mistake about it. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Yes. As expected, the dean was a little surprised. No wonder. Old Mo, this child is a talent. Other than Chinese, he scored full marks in all his subjects. Moreover, the 1 point deducted from Chinese was just a symbolic mark. You know that, too. That 1 point is to tell the students that there is no end to knowledge and that there will always be room for improvement. Not to mention getting full marks, even passing full marks would be fine. He had checked and found out that this child had done a good deed when she was still in school. Originally, she was supposed to be given extra marks, but who knew that she would score so high that the provincial government didn't know where to add her marks, so they dropped the matter. Chapter 780. Initially, he thought that old Mo had taken in the wrong student, but now, he felt differently. She was so young. Not only did she have good grades, but she had also done many heroic deeds. She must have a good character and was intelligent. She should be nurtured with great effort. Mo Zhengyang was also shocked. Following that, there was a strong sense of pride. I've taken a fancy to her ability. Jing Yunjiao did not mind. In her mind, the college entrance exam was long over. The things she was learning now were all new. It was useless to think about the glory of the past. At this time, wherever Jing Yunjiao passed, the people around her would automatically make way for her. They looked at her with complicated expressions, and some were even a little shocked. That was because the people around her were all famous people in the school. Ordinary students would more or less tremble in fear when they saw them. Who would be like her? After a while, Jing Yunjiao also saw Hua Tianxian and the other two. She waved her hand and asked them to come over. Hua Tianxian was more excited. It was rare to see her so serious and cautious. When the exhibition was almost finished, Hu Tianxian finally plucked up her courage and asked Jing Yunjiao to take a photo of her and Mo Zhengyang standing together. Although Mo Zhengyan's temper was not very good, he was not a strange old man. At the very least, he was much better than old man Shu. Therefore, when he knew that Hu Tianxian's father had collected his paintings, he was very cooperative. Although I don't like businessmen, I have to say that this world can't do without them. Since your father collected my paintings, he must have participated in the charity auction and done a good deed, said Mo Zhengyang. He did not like businessmen, but he did not like those profiteers. However, he had to admit that some businessmen could do a lot. Many times, they were generous and could help many people out of trouble. Hu Tianxian's eyes lit up after being praised by Mo Zhengyang. She was like an obedient child. The dean knew Hu Tianxian's father, so he took extra care of her. He even said that if possible, he would like to invite this entrepreneur to give a speech at the school. Although Hu Tianxian knew that her parents weren't interested in the speech, she still cooperated with them and made a few polite remarks. She didn't look like a student, but a woman who had grown up in all kinds of social gatherings. At this moment, she had the temperament of a businesswoman that didn't fit in with the school. As soon as the seemingly relaxed exhibition ended, it became a nerve-wracking process. The technical department was still investigating. They already knew who the person who posted the thread was, but because there were too many enthusiastic replies, it was a little troublesome. During the afternoon class, Zhu Maijun appeared at the door. Jing Yunjiao, I didn't do it on purpose, Zhu Maijun said as soon as Jing Yunjiao appeared. Miss Zhu, I don't know what you're talking about. Jing Yunjiao asked even though he already knew the answer. You know it. That post was posted by me, but I didn't know it was Professor Mo at that time. Also, I already told you before I posted it. Why didn't you tell me? You're responsible for making such a big deal out of it, Zhu Maijun said in a panic. Her eyes turned red. She wasn't at the exhibition in the afternoon. She only overheard it when she was in the dormitory. They said that Jing Yunjiao was the famous Professor Mo's student in the sinology department. They said that Professor Mo was very influential in the school and that the dean was going to punish the person who spread the rumors. She panicked at that moment. It wasn't easy for her to get into a university. Her mother and stepfather had always been proud of her for being able to get into a university. If the school punished her or even expelled her, she would lose all face. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.